When Gary and Peter lost their breath, then I focused my attention on Bob. Before ending him, I hoped to get some crucial information from his mouth. Do you want to live? I asked. Bob Stokes raised his head in confusion. He was never expecting a survival option in this situation. But still, he wants to grab any opportunity to save his life. So he looked at Kevin, Vincent, and asked back, "What do you want?" Bob knows it's not easy to escape alive from here. From Kevin's actions, he came to realize that the other person wants something. So only after fulfilling his request, he may end up saving his own life. On the other hand, my eyebrows eased a little bit knowing that Bob is ready to cooperate. Okay, I'll ask a few questions. If you give me a satisfying answer, you can leave from here, I said. If not, you will end up worse than your friends, I added further. Hearing that, a cold shiver went down Bob's spine. He doesn't have that usual arrogance anymore. After seeing Kevin's unusual magic, he gave up himself on using any means of retaliation. Right now, he has only thought in his mind to somehow save his own life. He doesn't want the same ending as Gary and Peter. Then Bob nodded his head in understanding. He is going to spill the beans without hiding anything in his heart. At the same time, he is also curious about Kevin's actions. What is the need for such calculation against them? Bob recalled they were the ones who approached Kevin back at the Adventure Union, not him the other hand. Which means they are responsible for their suffering. Greed blinded their heart and eyes and made them offend someone who shouldn't be supposed to be touched. Bob suddenly felt bad in his heart. It's too late to regret anything. He can only hope that another person, Kevin, to let him live. Seeing Bob's defeated expression, I understand that he won't put up any struggle anymore. But still, I'm not going to dispel the field. I asked, "What did you do at the Dividing Edge? What is your mission?" Though I know they were doing intel gathering. But I want to hear their mission description and their superiors' orders. Only in this way, I can get clear information. Hearing that, a hint of apprehension appeared in Bob's eyes. He quickly became hesitant about it. Divulging information about the guild is not a good thing. If not for his current situation, he won't even think about it. The atmosphere quieted down for a moment. I can see the trace of struggle on Bob's face. To completely let down his guard, I made a threat again. "Do you want to die? I don't have all day to wait for your answer. If not you, I can get the answers from others. So think about it and tell me the details," I added in a stern tone. My final warning seemed to be working. Bob appeared to be determined. High-level hunters from our guild were up to something. Before they arrive at the wilderness, our manager ordered us to collect some information, Bob said. A quick glint flashes into my eyes as I caught some hint from his words. Powerful wizards from their guild haven't come yet. Are they making sure that the absence of other guilds? Various questions appeared in my mind. I looked at him and asked again, what the strong wizards from your guild are going to do? I'm not hoping to get an actual answer from him, but I want to see whether he has overheard any conversation with his superiors. Bob Stokes remained silent for a moment. Because he has expecting this question when Kevin inquired about the first question. Both of them were related. Right now he has a vague feeling in his heart that Kevin, Vincent, might come from another strong guild. If it's true, then the superior have guessed right. Whatever plan they had earlier, it might have leaked already. Otherwise, Kevin wouldn't have asked anything related to their guild's matter. Then suddenly Bob shuddered after seeing Kevin's intense gaze. He has to say something right now. He wrapped his brain to recall the events that had occurred in the past. He doesn't know about the higher official's mission. He doesn't even have authority or access to such information. He sighed inwardly. Though he doesn't remember anything regarding the higher official mission, he still has some information about some high-rank wizards. Some of them were rumors and others were overheard by him. "Kevin, I don't know about the mission," Bob replied in a trembling voice. I wrinkled my eyebrows hearing that. I thought he'd taking time to remember something. Finally, I realized this interrogation is going nowhere. So it's better to kill him and reduce my mana consumption. The next second, I take out the black dagger from my storage bracelet. Bob began panicking. This was the last thing he wanted to witness. So quickly shouted, "Wait, I don't know about the mission. I'm just a low-level wizard." Hearing that, I didn't stop my movement. I gripped the black dagger tightly and decided to slit the throat of the enemy. "Wait, I know something about wide plains," Abon uttered in helplessness. I stopped my movements abruptly when I decided to kill him. Because his words piqued my curiosity. The one thing that I need right now is the information about the mission. Apart from that, I also want to learn more about the wide plains. So I stepped back a little bit and asked, "Tell me what you know. I'm losing my patience here." Bob Stokes breathed in relief. But still, the gravitational field is taking a toll on him. The pressure is tiring him out greatly. Right now, he is withstanding the pressure by countering against the field by using his brute strength. Like other wizards, the power wizards also have their core. The core is different from other elemental cores that exist in this world. The strength-type core provides a boost to the physique wizards from the initial stage itself. That's why their damage output is greater than similar rank wizards. But this powered ability has its drawback. It consumes the mana reserve greatly in a short period. Bob also worried that he will be crushed onto the ground in a few minutes, because his mana reserve is dropping gradually. He is not sure about Kevin's mana reserve, but looking at his calm and composed face, he feels that his mana consumption will hit rock bottom before Kevin. Having no other choice, Bob answered, "Actually, this information was heard from my seniors." Like the dividing edge, there is also a special place exists between the hill regions and wide plains, he added. Hearing that, I nodded. Now things were getting interesting. Finally, he has some credible information which I would like to know more about. Seeing that Kevin is interested in this information, Bob quickly began to divulge the information. A wide smile blossomed on my face a few minutes later. There is a place where the monsters are afraid to trespass, I mumbled under my breath. Thud. Bob completely collapses to the ground as he ran out of mana. He appeared to be lost consciousness. Seeing that, I moved my black dagger to slice his throat. A few seconds later, a red line can be seen on Bob's neck. After that, I stored the black dagger in my storage bracelet and waited for the enemy to breathe his last breath. I checked his vitality via the status panel. When the vitality reached 0, Bob's life came to an end. Then I dispelled the gravity field and proceed to dispose of the 3 corpses. It will take some time, but I'm glad to do that. After an hour, I sat on a mountain rock. I accessed the wilderness map on my communication watch. I want to look at that special place on the map. Soon the whole wilderness map appeared above the display screen. I used my fingers to zoom in on my current location. I want to check how long it will take for me to reach the White Plains. Then I began to analyze my location. After walking down this route, I will reach the entrance to White Plains. After this hill region, there is nothing but open and wide barren lands. The vegetation was not dense compared to the current location. On the map, I can hardly see any green color marked on it. This map alone shows how dangerous that place is. On the wide plains, it's normal to come across second-order monsters. When it comes to first-order monsters, they are many. The third-order monsters are like bosses of these plains. But it's hard to encounter third-order monsters normally. And when it comes to the overlord of the plains, it's natural for fourth-order monster to present here. But I don't know where the fourth order exists or not. Anyway, those existence are still high above me. Right now my wizard level is very low. I can only stick around the premise of the wilderness. I found it, I muttered as I spotted the teeny tiny dot on the map. It is the unique location mentioned by Bob Stokes. Then I started paying close attention to the surroundings. The next thing I knew, my brows were furrowed. Because the special location is in the heart of the wilderness. I'll have to fight a lot of monsters before I get there. With my current strength, it will be difficult. Sigh. I sighed quietly to myself. Fighting those monsters appears to be impossible. It's only self-seeking death if I meet monsters of the second and higher orders. It would be ideal if I returned after leveling up. My eyes showed signs of struggle. Even if I decide to wait, the abandoned site will not. High-ranking wizards may find the location in the coming days. The valuable items inside the abandoned site may also be looted. This is an unfavorable situation for me. Unconsciously, I clenched my fist as this thought entered my mind. It's extremely difficult to find relics and other magical treasures. Such resources are not readily accessible to me with my current bank balance. So my heart tells me not to give up. But my mind tells me that if I go there, I will die. What should I do? As I struggled to make a decision in my heart, I raised my head to look at the sky. A warm breeze brushed against my face. I made an appropriate decision the next second. I'm going to try fishing in muddy water. If the situation deteriorates, I will flee immediately. At the very least, this allows me to see what is going on outside. I got up from the mountain rock and headed towards the wide plains after gaining some clarity. The time went by. I finally saw the wide plains after walking down the narrow path for several hours. Despite the fact that I arrived safely, I don't feel good. I need to rethink my plan. Then I found a comfortable place to sit. I opened the map on my communication watch once more. There are numerous ways to get to these vast plains. I took the path less traveled by adventurers. On this map, there is also a short distance route. I suppose the Sword Guild's high-ranking wizards might take one of these routes. I need to look for a common intersecting path to find them. After a few minutes, I felt a pang of disappointment in my heart. Because, aside from the special location, there is no possible meeting point. It's impossible for me to meet high-ranking wizards unless I go to a special location. I can only learn about the abandoned site after spying on them. For a brief moment, I stopped thinking and looked ahead of me. It's already a miracle that I haven't encountered any monsters. But it can't be the same if I take a step closer. I was having trouble with my thoughts when I heard a screeching sound from above. My heart skips a beat when I hear that. The sound was clear and loud. My instincts kicked in and I immediately knelt on the ground. A hurricane passed over me. With such a strong wind, I immediately considered an aerial attack. I didn't want to expose myself directly to the monster the next second. As a result, I dashed towards a nearby tree. I only had time to observe the monster after getting under the shade of the tree. This is my first encounter with aerial-type monsters. I noticed the monster in the sky circling directly above me. "Why plain eagle?" I exclaimed, surprised. This eagle monster is very local to this area. In other words, these eagle monsters live on these vast plains. So much so that their names are derived from this location. But this is disappointing news for me. How am I going to get out of his vision? If it's a terrain monster, I'll be able to get away from them if I have enough strength. The situation is different for the aerial monster. According to the teacher, the eagle monster has an extraordinary vision. They can see me from a long way away. This situation has become complicated. If I don't take care of this monster, my plan will be jeopardized. System, probe the target's details. I instructed the system in mind. Ding. Host's command is recognized. Ding. The command is executed. Status panel. Target's name, White Plains Eagle. Order, First Order, Early Level. Strength, 32. Vitality, 33. Speed, 32. Stamina, 30. Skill/ability, Metal Claws, Wide Vision. The status panel appeared in front of my eyes the next second. After researching the monster's strength, my brow furrowed slightly. I can easily defeat the monster. However, this is only possible if the monster falls to the ground. If it continues to circle in the sky, I won't have a chance. The eagle monster, on the other hand, made a screech after seeing that the prey had slipped away. The monster, however, did not give up and continued to circle the air. And its gaze remained fixed on the ground. Through his vision, the monster discovered the prey hiding beneath the tree. However, due to the large tree, the monster is unable to use its lethal claws. It can only wait for its prey to appear. I made some decisions at the same time. My mana reserve is not depleted. I'd already used half of them on the 3 garbage wizards. So I don't want to use up my remaining reserve as well. I don't want to lose my only trump card before facing the high-ranking wizards. So, to address the current situation, I decided to be patient for a while. I'm hoping that bored aerial monster will fly away. Time has passed. I raised my head and looked up at the sky after 10 minutes. I twitched, but the monster didn't move. It is still watching me. Where does it get its energy? I gradually became irritated. This is the first time I've encountered numerous roadblocks in my plans. But I managed to persuade myself. I'm currently standing at the edge of the vast plains. So an increase in monster activity is to be expected here. After gaining some clarity, I slowly walked away from the tree's shade and looked into the open sky. The next thing I knew, I heard a loud scratch. Gravity field, I said. I immediately cast the gravity spell. I decided not to kill the monster in order to save my mana. When the monster realizes the difference between our strengths, it will flee. A massive gravitational field appeared out of nowhere, covering the rocks and trees within 10 meters. When the field was formed, all of the small rocks and stones were instantly pulverized. At the same time, the giant eagle spied its prey from above. I didn't hesitate any longer after seeing that. After circling in the air, the eagle monster dove downward. The giant eagle dashed towards the prey, keeping its 2 deadly claws forward to catch the prey. Despite its early stage, the eagle monster's deadly claws can easily rip the flesh of ordinary humans. The eagle monster reaches the target in the blink of an eye. The monster was shocked when it entered the gravitational field. Under terrible traditional pressure, the eagle monster lost its balance. The monster veered off course and crashed to the ground. When I saw that, my lips formed an arc. It's a good chance to defeat the monster and collect the crystal gems. Unfortunately, my mana reserve is running low. I dispelled the gravitational magic and rushed away from this location the next second. I didn't look at the eagle monster, but I'm sure it was fine. I'm hoping it won't waste its time looking for me. I then found a large mountain rock to rest on a few minutes later. I couldn't help but curse myself after sitting in the shade of the massive mountain rock. Damn. My strategy is completely ineffective. If this continues, I'll end up wasting more time here. There are so many monsters roaming around here that it's difficult to face them all alone. It's no surprise that people came to the vast plains with their teams. The only good thing that happened was that the eagle monster did not chase me down. It must return to its proper location. I just hope I don't find myself in a similar situation again before meeting the high-ranking wizards. Then I swept my gaze around the room casually. I relaxed a little after seeing that there were no signs of monsters. I reopened the wilderness map. I need to come up with a good plan. I can't just sit here and waste my time. I'm going to look for the shortest route. There's a chance I'll run into high-ranking wizards. A faint fruit smell assaulted my nostrils as I pondered. Where is this smell coming from? My eyes twinkled. I have a hunch it's some sort of magical treasure. Then I got up from the ground and started looking for the source. Little Stargate High School, Red City. 1 hour before lunch. Liam Baker's mind is occupied with revenge thoughts right now. Because of it, he wasn't able to concentrate on the ongoing class. Earlier, he thought about hatching a new plan against Vincent Carey. But after knowing that he was absent today, Liam shifted his attention to Vincent's body, Lucas Brad. Liam watched the movements of Lucas Brad from time to time. He remembered how Vincent had dealt with Chrissy and others some time ago. Liam wanted to do the same treatment against Lucas Brad. Suddenly, his lips went into arc after gaining some clarity. He will not act directly. As a wizard ranked among the top 10, it would be inappropriate if he fight against a newly joined classmate. Like always, he has to convince the freeloader Easton Brown. Liam thought at least in this way he can make Easton work for his resources. Time passed. When the class came to an end, the teacher left the class immediately. Since it was lunchtime, students began to walk out one by one. Liam watched Lucas exit the class. He knows where Lucas and Vincent usually ate. Since one of them is not available, he guessed Lucas will go to the other common cafeteria/canteen instead of their Class A1 cafeteria. So Liam felt it's the best time to act against Lucas and teach him some harsh, unforgettable lessons. He then walked towards Easton Brown. While walking, he recalled something. He doesn't want the three nuisance to follow him everywhere. He turned to face Chrissy Hart, Bruce Hill and Mark Spear. Liam said, "You guys can go on your own. I have some other work to do." Chrissy's eyes gleamed with surprise. But soon she realized the reason behind this as she saw Easton Brown looking at them. In order not to reveal her thoughts, she decided not to show any expression on her face. After nodding at Liam, she walked away with her friends. Only after exiting the A-rank building, she breathed in relief. "Chrissy," Bruce uttered. He wants to know what's her plan next. Earlier, he was afraid of raising his voice in front of Liam. He wasn't sure what the madman is thinking about them. Liam will smash him if he irritates him somehow. He noticed one thing. Liam is beginning to sideline them. He has been feeling this way since last week. Right now, the feeling is not only reduced, it has risen many-fold. Besides him, Mark was also not in good shape either. He is close with Chrissy and Bruce than others in the same class. So whatever two of them decided to do, he will blindly follow it. On the other hand, Chrissy's heart remained silent after looking at their expression. She has already made it clear that the three of them will clear whatever misunderstanding exists between them and Vincent Carey. But so far they weren't able to get a suitable opportunity for that. "What are you thinking?" Bob asked. Hearing that, she retracted her thoughts. "I'm just wondering what Liam will do next." She replied, "I believe he is planning his next move against Vincent. Looks like hasn't learned a lesson from last combat session," she added further. "Yeah, Vincent is growing fast. It is not wise to offend him," Bruce said in a solemn tone. He couldn't understand Liam's actions. Even after witnessing Vincent's magical powers, he still thinks about taking revenge. He doesn't know what is wrong with his brain. At this time, Mark, who was standing quiet, opened his mouth to say, "Why can't we share this information with that fatty?" Chrissy and Bruce looked into each other's eyes. It's rare for Mark to step up and give suggestions. But still, his idea is good. Today, Vincent was absent. So Lucas Brad is alone. This is the best time to clear the misunderstanding between them. After realizing this, Chrissy Hart revealed a bright smile on her face. Then she said, "Let's go and meet him." Hearing that, three of them rushed towards the cafeteria/canteen. While rushing, Chrissy realizes they are going towards the wrong destination. She immediately said, "Wait. Are we forgetting something?" she asked. Hearing that, Bruce wrinkled his eyebrows and asked, "A what?" "That fatty won't go to our cafeteria today," she said. When she finished her words, Bruce smacked his head in realization. Then the trio changed their direction and went towards the common cafeteria. Simultaneously, two wizards walked out of the A-rank building. They are none other than Easton Brown and Liam Baker. Easton Brown cast a glance at the surroundings and asked, "The coast is clear, can you tell me what you want?" Liam furrowed his eyebrows as he is not okay with Easton's attitude. But at this time he has no other choice. He has to convince Easton. Cough, he let out a small cough. Then he answered, "You know exactly what I need from you?" Hearing that, Easton Brown stopped his movements. Liam's words made him remember the last combat session, where he lost his courage to challenge Vincent. Easton Brown's face turned ugly. He doesn't know why Liam is bringing up this topic right now. In the next second, a vein began to pop from his forehead. But Easton Brown knows it's not good to tear off the face with Liam right now. If Liam asks him to return the resources that he had consumed, then he will suffer immensely. So he calmed down his heart and decided to reason with him. "I will challenge Vincent after improving my strength further. At least, I need to have the combat power of top 10 wizards," Easton Brown said in a solemn tone. He doesn't want to continue this conversation further. Before he could say something, he heard Liam's words. "Right now, I don't want you to deal with Vincent Carey but someone else," Liam said with a smile. Hearing that, Easton Brown wrinkled his eyebrows. This guy, who is he targeting besides Vincent? He thought to himself. As far as he knows, Liam has no other enemy apart from Vincent Carey. Seeing that, Easton Brown is interested. Liam began to explain his plan against Lucas Brad. Easton Brown's reaction was normal at first. But when he continued to listen about Lucas Brad, he had a complicated expression on his face. He had never expected Liam to stoop this low and target Vincent Carey's friend. And what is more nuts is that Liam wanted to use his hand. When Liam finished his words, Easton immediately replied, "No, I'm not going to do this. It's not allowed to fight against classmates inside the school campus." That's why he had spent most of the time outside of the school campus in search of Vincent Carey. So he is not going to agree with Liam's plan. At this point, Liam was pissed off. He lost his composure. Looking at Easton Brown, he said, "If you don't do it as I say, then you will have to return all my resources." Easton Brown clenched his fists. He wasn't surprised by Liam's words. He was expecting this answer when he answered no. For a moment, both remained silent. Easton Brown has conflicting thoughts. Then after a few seconds, he helplessly agreed. He was already penniless. So it's impossible to return the resources. Easton Brown said, "All right, I will teach that Lucas Brad a lesson." A wide smile blossomed on Liam's face. He was frustrated with Easton's words earlier. But now he is going to watch a good show. He can't imagine what Vincent's reactions would be like when he hears the news. At that time, Vincent made his friends bedridden. It took them some time to get back. Now Liam wants to do the same with Lucas Brad. The next second, both walked towards the common cafeteria/canteen. Simultaneously, common cafeteria? Lucas Brad was eating the food, all alone by himself at the cafeteria. If Vincent was present here, both took some time to complete their food. At the same time, other wizard students were getting their food plates from the counter. When the cafeteria was crowded with people and there is hardly any free table to sit at. 3 people looking for a certain person in this crowd. They were none other than Chrissy Hart, Bruce and Mark. Why did he choose this cafeteria? Bruce asked in displeasure. This place is crowded. It's hard for them to find Lucas Brad. What will happen if he leaves this place? Their Class A1 cafeteria is free and spacious. You can identify people from distance. Suddenly, Mark spotted the familiar silhouette. Seeing that, he quickly reminded others, "There is he," after saying that he pointed his fingers in the opposite direction. Chrissy and Bruce followed the direction to see Lucas Brad. Then 3 times saw he was sitting all alone in the corner. Seeing that, 3 of them looked at each other. Chrissy Hart eased her eyebrows and said, "Let's go, I'll talk to him." She wants to finish the conversation before Lucas gets away. Then 3 of them walked towards Lucas Brad. I started looking around this massive mountain rock. But I couldn't track down the source of the fruit odor. This piqued my interest even more. Because the smell could be coming from somewhere else. Then it could attract the attention of nearby monsters. This type of opportunity, however, is uncommon. So I decided to investigate. After a few minutes of deliberation, I chose a possible path, which is the mountain rock's backside. I'm suspicious of the location behind the mountain rock. I take the dagger from my storage bracelet after walking past the trees and dense vegetation. Then I proceed by clearing the path out by cutting the bushes. The time went by. A large bedrock appeared a few minutes later. I couldn't see the end of the bedrock because it was so large. My attention was drawn to the cracks. The bedrock has developed numerous cracks. The scene in front of me did not surprise me. Then I noticed that the trees had grown from the cracks. The large cracks, in particular, were occupied by trees. Looking at everything, I'm pretty sure the smell of the fruit is coming from somewhere around here. I decided to search after gaining some clarity in my thoughts. I also decided to keep an eye on my surroundings before doing so. After 5 minutes, I heard a rustling sound while inspecting one of the cracks. My heart skips a beat when I hear that. My first thought was to flee from the monster. Then I turned to look down the crack in front of me. It's the best place to hide for me. Without further ado, I crouched down and descended. I completely hid when I thought. The sound of noise did not stop. Then I realized it wasn't a monster scream. The more I listened, the more I heard the sound of footsteps. My expression tightened slightly. If those are hunters' footsteps, I'm not sure how many there are. Now I was worried. Because no one will visit these vast plains except strong hunters. Is this the right place? From afar, a stern, deep voice can be heard. This is the place. Ah. I can almost smell the magical fruits. The first voice was followed by another. My expression changed when I overheard the conversations. The worst-case scenario played out. Instead of monsters, hunters came to this location. This is bad, I muttered to myself. I hope their total is less than 5. Then I perked up my ears to hear more. They appeared to be close to my current location. Let's hurry, we have to find the Gregor site before dawn, the female voice said this time. TCK, don't worry, the scumbags from the Sword Guild haven't arrived yet, the second male voice immediately countered. Cough to cough. Begin your search for the treasure. We don't have a lot of time here, they were instructed by a person with a deep voice. At the same time, I couldn't stop my heart from racing after hearing their conversation. When I decided to keep listening, their conversation came to an abrupt halt. People seemed to vanish out of nowhere. I suppose they're looking for the treasure, I exclaimed, surprised. But I'm no longer interested in the magical treasure. Rather, my attention was drawn to specific information from their conversation. What exactly is Gregor site? Is this the real name of the abandoned site that I'm looking for? However, these people were speaking out against the Sword Guild. As a result, they are not Sword Guild hunters. This implies that the Sword Guild's closely guarded secret has been compromised in some way. As a result, I'm not the only one who is aware of such information. There are also other guilds at work. I have a feeling the Sword Guild wizards will halt their operations. And eventually, the exploration of the abandoned site will be abandoned. What a name, Gregor. Is it the old wizard's name? A glint flashed into my eyes as I found the name intriguing. The following second, I decided on my next course of action. I'm guessing there are only 3 hunters in that group based on the conversations. As a result, I have a good chance of escaping them. After a few seconds of thought, I decided to leave the wilderness after gathering the final piece of information. I now have a possible name for the abandoned site. The only thing lacking is the precise location. I can stop acting passively if I have a location. I won't have to rely on the guilds or the adventurer union once I know where the Gregor site is. As I made some decisions, a cold glint flashed into my eyes. Instead of being conflicted about whether or not to visit the special place I realized it was better to stick with these people. They can provide me with more information than trash wizards. Then I paused for a few moments before ascending. After returning to my usual location, I took a quick look around. As far as I can tell, there is no trace of the hunters. But I have a sneaking suspicion that they didn't leave this place. I still haven't finished covering the entire bedrock. So there's a chance I'll come across them. The time went by. I finally reached the end of the bedrock after walking past these large trees. At this point, I noticed 3 people walking ahead of me. Surprisingly, they are not heading towards the vast plain center. If my prediction is correct, they will intercept the wizards from the Sword Guild. As this thought entered my mind, I could smell the bad blood. I anticipate a violent clash in the near future. This, however, will not deter me from following them. I gradually made my way toward them. I was careful not to cause any disruptions on the way. I was finally able to hear their conversation after closing the gap between us. How long will we walk like this? A hunter in a green adventurer suit said to his companions. When they heard that, the leader turned to face him. He responded, our mission is to find out where the Gregor site is. We can leave once we've completed that task. The second person nodded when he heard that. He didn't appear to be pleased with their strategy. But our guild predicted that the site might be located at the special place, the female hunter said. She believes they are wasting their time here. After hearing that, the leader was displeased and asked, "Do you think we can venture to that place with our level 2 strength?" After that, the female hunter calmed down. Seeing the leader's tense expression, the second person decided to break the tension between the two members. "We're here to confirm the news, Amber. If that special place is where the Gregor site is, we can return here with more wizards on our side." With a cough, he stated. "Only level 3 senior wizards can protect us in that location," he added. At the same time, I became distracted by their conversation for a brief moment. Creak! I unintentionally stepped on an old tree branching the ground, which resulted in the cracking sound the next second. Who exactly is it? The next thing I knew, I was being threatened by a loud voice from ahead. Sure. They've spotted me. In a solemn tone, I said to myself. I started running away from this place at full speed the next second. I'm running in the same direction I came from. I've already gotten the important information from them, so there's no reason for me to stay here. They also appeared to be level 2 wizards. If I'm caught, I'll die. I'll hide beneath the cracks once I reach the bedrocks. 3 of them, on the other hand, were startled after hearing a disturbance. What happened, Morris? The second person asked right away. He had the impression that a monster was lurking nearby. Morris, the group's leader, did not respond directly, but his gaze was fixed in one direction. He had heard a noise a few seconds before. However, the sound has now completely vanished. His skepticism grew stronger. It's not a monster, it's something else, he said. Reese, go check that place, Morris said, pointing to where Vincent had been hiding a few seconds before. Reese dashed towards the location when he heard that. Is it someone from the Sword Guild? Inquired the female wizard. I'm not sure, Morris stated. Ember, go ahead and follow him. Then he told her to back up Reese. Ember nodded and immediately followed Reese. Morris, like an old fox, realized something right away. They had previously been too careless in their conversation. Their voice was not so low, so anyone nearby could hear it clearly. Then he waited for them to return. Reese arrived at the location quickly and began looking for traces. Morris' words led him to believe it was a hunter. Ember arrived a few seconds later. By then, Reese had discovered some broken twigs. Little Stargate High School, Red City. Common cafeteria/canteen. Fatty Lucas ate his food quietly. But then he noticed 3 people approaching him. He raised his brows as 3 of them appeared to be familiar. Lucas' movements came to a halt as they got closer to him. What exactly are they doing here? He thought to himself. For a brief moment, Lucas was perplexed. Mark Spear, Chrissy Hart, and Bruce Hill, these 3 usually eat lunch at our school's Class A1 cafeteria. They don't eat at the common cafeteria. Fatty Lucas quickly realized that they were there to meet him. Then he eats the last piece of food on his plate. He rose from his seat and walked toward the counter after finishing his meal. But he began to be concerned. He walked through the crowd to put the plate for dishwasher. But he couldn't help but notice the trio on his way. He believes Liam directed them to do something. Perhaps Liam is taking advantage of Brother Vincent's absence. He cursed at Liam, shameless bastard road. He began to use his brain to come up with a solution. Lucas has no idea what they're up to. He can't fight them if 3 of them are here for vengeance. What should I do? He muttered. He then attempted to leave the area. But before he could do so, he was interrupted by a voice from behind. Hearing that, he came to a halt in his movements. Lucas, we've come to talk about something, Chrissy Hart said as she noticed Lucas trying to flee. Lucas was taken aback. This is completely unexpected for him. He's not sure whether to believe it or not. But look at the other wizard students who are having lunch here. He believes that these 3 will not cause a commotion here. So he decided to listen to them first. 4 of them walked out of the cafeteria after nodding their heads. They found some open spaces to talk. Lucas scanned his surroundings to see if Liam was nearby. It's still difficult for him to believe they came here without Liam. Looking at his tense face, on the other hand, Chrissy Hart sighed quietly to herself. This is unavoidable. Lucas' suspicion is understandable to her. Cough. After witnessing Vincent's strength, we decided to clear the misunderstanding between us, she said with a small cough. Lucas raised his brows, unable to believe the poisonous woman was acting so modestly in front of him, which is uncharacteristic of her. This is real, he said quietly to himself. He wishes he could pinch himself. We attempted to contact Vincent the last time. However, he left school early, she elaborated. Bruce Hill and Mark Spear both agreed on this point. For a brief moment, the atmosphere was deafeningly quiet. Lucas took a few moments to process the information. He took note of 3 of their expressions. They appeared sincere. There was no deception in their expression. This surprised him greatly. However, another question has arisen in his mind. Is Liam aware of this? Or Liam decided to put an end to their feud? When this thought entered his mind, it felt too good to be true. And how about Liam Baker? He inquired. Chrissy Hart had anticipated this question. She is aware that Liam's recent behavior has made them suspicious. She gave Bruce Hill and Mark Spear a sidelong glance before turning to face Lucas. She is unsure whether Lucas believes her words. But only if they clear their misunderstanding now. Then it will be too late to change your mind. Liam is unaware of our thoughts. And he's been acting on his own lately. So, before another conflict erupts, we decided to make our feelings known to you, as she stated. Lucas remained silent and patiently listened. But when he learned that they had come here without Liam's permission, a glint flashed into his eyes. Then his glum expression gave way to a bright smile. Brother Vincent's beating, he felt, had finally caused them to turn over a new leaf. This is good news, he said. However, just as they were discussing, another voice abruptly interrupted their conversation. Everyone was taken aback when they heard that. Because 4 of them recognized the voice. Lucas became aware of something and immediately followed the voice to its source. Lucas gnashed his teeth and said, Liam. But the next thing he knew, he was staring at 3 of them. He had a fiery stare for Chrissy Hart in particular. Chrissy Hart was taken aback. She had not anticipated Liam's arrival at this time. She responded right away, oh no, we never expected him to follow us back. But it's clear that we have nothing to do with Liam and his actions. Chrissy Hart spoke quickly. She noticed Liam is not alone. He is approaching them with Easton Brown. When she sees these 2, she has a strong negative reaction. Bruce Hill and Mark Spear are both perplexed. They had not anticipated his arrival. 3 of them assumed Liam would spend his time in the A1 cafeteria. That's why they took advantage of the opportunity to meet Liam. But now that he was here, Bruce and Mark were both aware. Lucas Brad has something to do with it. The situation is bad, Mark said. What's next, Chrissy? Bruce inquired. They were both struck by Easton Brown's expression. Something seemed to irritate him. Chrissy Hart, on the other hand, is at a loss for words. Just wait and see what he does, she replied. Lucas Brad cast a glance around before focusing on Liam and Easton Brown. He now believes what Chrissy Hart says. Chrissy Hart's hands were trembling because he could see them. This nervousness and surprise are real. When they were perplexed, Liam and Easton Brown approached them. Liam's eyes widened with a cold glint as he noticed Chrissy Hart, Bruce, and Mark. He looked at Chrissy and asked sternly, you haven't responded to my question. What are you doing here? Easton Brown was watching Lucas Brad at the time. He despises himself for coming to this point. Unfortunately, he is unable to deny Liam Baker's instructions. We are here to inquire about Vincent's whereabouts, Chrissy Hart said, trying to calm her racing heart. She quickly told a big lie. Liam creased his brows. Because Chrissy's tense expression was making him doubtful. Then he quickly remembered why he had come here. He returned these thoughts to his mind after recalling them and said, okay, everyone, get behind me. We need to talk to our good friend about something. He smiled brightly at Lucas after saying that. Chrissy Hart and others immediately walked away from Lucas Brad. 3 of them were left alone. After some distance, Bruce couldn't help but wonder, is there anything we can do to stop the fight? In fear, Bruce gulped his saliva. There is no need to speculate. 3 of them are aware of what is about to occur. Do you guys have Vincent's contact number? Chrissy Hart thought quickly. In denial, Bruce Hill and Mark Spear shook their heads. Chrissy Hart became silent when she saw this. She then came up with a quick solution. She made the decision to inform their teacher, Eric Wallace. Lucas Brad, on the other hand, begins to be concerned. Cough and a cough. Before turning to walk away, he coughed twice. Wait, Easton Brown said solemnly. He will carry out his responsibilities. Lucas Brad clenched his teeth and came to a halt. He chose to listen to him first. What do you want? Lucas asked, looking at Easton's ruthless face. Easton Brown raised his fist to punch him in the face instead of responding. Lucas was unable to block the punch due to the speed of the movement. The punch then lands on Lucas' face, causing him to stagger backward. Everyone was taken aback by Easton's sudden action. Lucas struggled to keep his balance before collapsing. He noticed Easton didn't use his magic while he was controlling himself. Instead, he relied on his own strength. Even so, getting punched in the face made his head spin. At the same time, a minor commotion breaks out unexpectedly. This unexpected confrontation drew the attention of others. Everyone was surprised to see someone fighting on the school grounds. When everyone saw the badge, however, the entire cafeteria fell silent. What are elite class wizard students doing here? Everyone is thinking the same thing. Liam Baker, on the other hand, noticed Easton Brown didn't use his magic against Lucas. He still has some reservations, he said dissatisfiedly to himself. Easton, cast your magic spell, Liam said sternly to Easton. Liam was also aware of the commotion and crowding around them. But he didn't seem to mind. He is convinced that management will not take harsh action against the elite class wizard. Otherwise, the ex-headmaster would not have forgiven Vincent Carey so easily. On top of that, this is a conflict between students in the same class. As a result, other members of the class will refrain from interfering in their case. Little Stargate High School. Easton Brown heard Liam's instruction. Liam is becoming irritated as he observes Easton Brown's hesitation. Then Easton Brown acted quickly. Whoosh! He arrived in front of Lucas, who was just about to fall. Easton quickly cast the spell Iron Fist before Lucas could ask any questions. Under the spell, Easton Brown's hand transforms into hard iron in the blink of an eye. Easton then raised his iron fist to deliver a punch to Lucas's abdomen. Lucas's eyes widened in surprise. When he saw the iron fist coming at him, he rushed to block it. But he couldn't keep up with Easton's quick movements. Bang! When Easton's punch landed on him, Lucas let out an agonizing arg sound. Smash! Easton's pure brute force knocked him out. Lucas slams into the cafeteria table the next second. Everything happened in an instant. Lucas Brown only felt excruciating pain. He has forgotten about Easton Brown. When he attempted to move, a cracked bone cracking sound was immediately heard. Lucas let out a small scream before slowly losing consciousness. He has no idea how many of his bones have been broken. The only thing that remained in his mind before losing consciousness was the image of Brother Vincent. Liam Baker, on the other hand, burst out laughing, "Ah ha ha." He is overjoyed for the first time in a long time. His disposition has recently deteriorated. But now that Vincent's friend is being thrashed in front of everyone. Seeing that, his previous discomfort vanished instantly. Liam is regaining his confidence. Then he noticed Lucas Brad still lying on the ground. When Liam saw this, he burst out laughing. Hee. I thought he could take a couple of your blows, but it appears he can't. Liam approached Easton Brown after saying that. Easton Brown witnessed Lucas go unconscious. So there will be no more fighting. The outcome did not surprise him. Lucas Brad and Vincent Carey were both new to their class. The debut release occurred at NOV3L bin. Their combat power is currently very low. He immediately dispelled the Iron Fist magic. Liam observed Easton Brown's actions. What are you doing? He inquired immediately. Easton furrowed his brows when he heard that. He couldn't believe what he was hearing right now. He shifted his gaze to Liam. It's over, Easton Brown said, seeing Liam's solemn expression. He then pointed his finger at the unconscious Liam Baker. He believed Liam had misunderstood something. Then Easton Brown noticed the crowd and looked around. He thought it was best for them to stop the fight right now. Lucas does not have a life-threatening injury, he knows. Lucas can be cured with the right treatment. However, they should avoid exacerbating the situation. But before Easton could respond, Liam said, "Oh, why are you standing stiffly? Go ahead and break his bones." Liam's voice was so loud this time that others could hear it. Gasp! Immediately, there is a loud commotion. This time, there were a lot of students gathered around. Some of them recognized Liam Baker right away. He is the elite class's class monitor. Someone in the audience said the truth. Another person commented, "Sigh, looks like someone offended the class monitor. What does he intend to do now?" "Hey, I contacted the information center. Let's see what happens next." Someone in the crowd acted quickly. Will the security guard show up? Several discussions erupted among the students. It's unusual to witness a brawl in front of you. Elite class wizards were typically aloof and domineering. As a result, internal conflict between them is unusual. Some of them rejoiced as they watched the confrontation, while others became concerned. Easton Brown's attack simply demonstrated the magnitude of the difference in strength. If it wasn't Lucas Brad, it would be a wizard of a different class casting his Iron Fist spell. He would have passed away by now. Chrissy Hart and her friends were nervously waiting for their class teacher to arrive while this was going on. "Liam is going overboard this time, Chrissy," Bruce Hill said. Chrissy's heart has complicated feelings after witnessing Lucas Brad's unconscious state. 3 of them wanted the same thing to happen to Lucas Brad a long time ago. Her heart is broken as she witnesses him being beaten and humiliated. But all of a sudden, she began to experience an unidentified fear. She has no idea how Vincent Carey will respond. She can't imagine herself being subjected to Vincent's forbidden magic again. A cold shiver ran down her spine as she recalled the memories. Mark stepped forward to support her after noticing her trembling body. He inquired, "How are you doing?" Bruce Hill drew his thoughts back and looked at her. Chrissy Hart quickly calmed her heart and panicked replied, "We need to drag him away before he makes things worse." Easton Brown, on the other hand, has a scowl on his face because Liam has asked to beat a dead snake. But Easton noticed Liam staring at him. This indicates that he is serious about it. Easton had the impression that Liam was not only digging his own grave but also dragging him towards it. Easton then stepped forward, shaking his head, to thrash Lucas Brad once more. Gasp! When they saw Easton Brown's actions, the audience took deep breaths. Liam Baker's logic had failed him. He wants to see Lucas Brad in bed. He still believes Lucas was beaten lightly. Easton appeared in front of Lucas Brad. He was certain Lucas was unconscious. He'll be at a loss for what to do. "Just thrash him with your legs," Liam said from behind him. Easton wrinkled his brows when he heard that. He made a promise to himself that he would not seek help from others in the future. Easton Brown then raised his leg to deliver a powerful kick. Nobody in the crowd intervened to stop him. The entire common cafeteria had now been transformed into a spectator area. Some of the female students had their eyes closed. They had already predicted what would happen next. Liam's face was beaming with delight. With just a little more, he can completely paralyze Vincent Carey's friend. But not before Easton Brown's kick hits Lucas. Bang! Easton was launched into the air. He crashed right next to Chrissy Hart and her friends on the grounds. Puff! Easton Brown's mouth was covered in blood. His whole body couldn't stop shaking. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Everyone was taken aback by the sudden change in movement. What? The audience was stunned. The next second, what exactly is going on here? The entire area was reverberated by a thunderous voice. Everyone couldn't help but put both hands on their ears when they heard the power of voice. For a brief moment, the atmosphere was deafeningly quiet. Nobody dared to make a noise, because they can sense the presence of a powerful wizard just by hearing his voice. A man in a black suit soon appeared in front of everyone. Many of them recognized the individual right away, because he is well known in the school. Liam Baker, on the other hand, recognized the person with a cold glint in his eyes. "Marcus Cole," he said, surprised. He hadn't expected him to show up so soon, because it's only been 10 minutes since they arrived. Looking around, Liam realized that someone in the crowd had probably informed him earlier. He said to the unconscious Lucas Brad, "Lucky." He had accomplished his goal. Nonetheless, he expected the beating to last a little longer. But now everything has been ruined by the appearance of the security guard. Marcus Cole's level 3 pressure made it impossible for anyone to raise their head. Students, particularly those near Marcus Cole, immediately bowed down. Marcus Cole, on the other hand, quickly focused his attention on the unconscious body. Looking at the face, he found it familiar. But his gaze is drawn to Liam Baker, who is near the unconscious body. Marcus Cole realized this quickly. "You still haven't given up your feud," Marcus Cole pointed out to Liam. He reflected on the past. Some time ago, this brat from Class A1 fought the kid from Class A2. He will never forget such occurrences. This brat, in particular, is the elite class's class monitor. If his memory serves him correctly, this unconscious person is that kid's friend. Marcus Nicole quickly resolved the situation. This brat hasn't changed his ways despite a warning from the former headmaster. He is aware that management is lenient toward the elite class. That is why the former headmaster didn't give them any harsh punishment. But times have changed and their school now has a new headmaster. Marcus wants to see how he handles this mess. Someone needs to keep elite class wizards in check. He immediately ordered the crowd to disperse. Nobody dares to stay here for more than a second. A few seconds later, no one can be seen in the cafeteria except Class A1 wizards. The wizard students immediately left. Even the cafeteria employees went to their rooms. Only 6 people from Class A1 remained. After observing the others, Marcus Cole went to check on Lucas. Phew, I exhaled in relief after taking a step inside the city. If someone sees me, they can see my back is completely drenched in sweat. After I had started fleeing from that place, I never turned back. Except for taking a few stops on the way to catch some breath, I avoided taking any rest. Then I saw the time. It was already midnight. Seeing that, I began to look for an air cab nearby. Fortunately, there is one right next to me. It just got arrived and a customer stepped out of the car the next second. I didn't waste any time thinking further. After a few minutes, the air cab flew towards my home. Only after getting inside the cab, I can think a lot more clearly. When I recall the conversation between those wizards, I can't stop worrying. Especially the wizards who are a level higher than me. Fortunately, I moved from that place on time. Otherwise, I would have ended up dead. Shaking my head, I try to forget this unpleasant event. But my trip is not without any gain. I got crucial information, which is necessary for my upcoming plans. The one thing that I had understands from the situation is my current level is not suitable for future battles. Especially my future enemies are level 2 and level 3 wizards. But it would be regrettable if someone finds that Gregor site. In this situation, time is not on my side. In the coming days, I can only be a spectator. The valuables from Gregor's site might be collected by other strong guilds. Thinking about it, I sighed inwardly. Maybe I should drop my plans about the Gregor site and reshift my attention back to the school. I should focus on the year-end competition. Because this plan sounds more logical. After gaining some clarity in my thought, I finally stopped thinking about the wilderness. Next, I waited for the air cab to reach my home. 2 hours later, the air cab slowly landed in front of my home. After paying the amount to the cab driver, I walked out of the car. I revealed a small smile as I walked up to the front door. Creak, the door opens. After opening the door using the spare key, I walked inside. I have a vague feeling that both my parents are in hospital. Today is an odd day, probably both of them are on duty. Which saves me from another headache. After closing the door, I glanced at my brother's room before walking upstairs. After getting inside my room, I went to take a bath first. 10 minutes later, after changing into comfortable clothes, I collapsed onto the bed in mental tiredness. In the next second, the image of Fatty flashed before my eyes. I don't know what happened at school today. I mumbled under my breath. In curiosity, I checked my communication watch. But there is no message in the inbox. Seeing that, I wrinkled my eyebrows in confusion. Usually, Lucas would spam my inbox with a barrage of messages. This time I didn't receive any message from the fatty. Is he alright? Various questions appeared in my mind. I only got Fatty as a sponsor in the school. I don't have another sidekick. Should I form my friend circles like Liam or Frank? Shaking my head, I stopped looking at the communication watch. I realized I'm still overthinking certain things. I feel it will be alright if I get some good sleep. Next, I turned off the light and fell asleep. The following day, I woke up early and went to freshen up myself. After a few minutes, I began to meditate. The gravity mana around me is, as usual, it's very scarce. But I didn't stop practicing because of it. It has already become a routine of mine. Slowly, I began to attract the scarce mana and gathered it inside my body. Time went by. I opened my eyes 1 hour later. Then I decided to get ready for school. I went inside the bathroom to take a long bath. I stepped out of the bath several minutes later. Then I began to wear the school uniform. The blue mage robe looked brand new. After wearing it, I glanced at the clock. There is still some time left for breakfast. I decided to wait a few more minutes before walking out. In the meantime, I began to read some daily news. When I opened the news webpage, an interesting headline drew my attention. Strong, the notorious wizard Leon Willie was found dead inside a prison cell. Strong. My eyes widened in surprise. This guy is dead. How is it even possible? I mumbled under my breath. Who killed this person? I mumbled under my breath. Due to my wilderness adventure, I almost forget about events taking place at police headquarters. A couple of days ago, I saw viral news where I saw a statement published by police headquarters saying that they have successfully apprehended the criminal. At the time, I realized the level -5 wizard from the police force succeed in their mission. That news brought me a great sense of relief. Because there will be no more assassination attempts on me. But looking at the current situation, I only got a dreadful feeling about this. I thought they would interrogate the person. If he spills the information, then they will act to wipe out the whole poison dagger force. This is the general trend I'm expecting. But now that he is dead, I don't know whether the police force managed to get some information from his mouth. In the next second, the image of vast plains comes to mind. Especially the recent events related to the Gregor site. I sucked a cold breath realizing the fact. No wonder the powerful guilds were acting boldly recently. As the police force is occupied with Leon Willie's case, they don't have time to look into other matters, which gives the best opportunity for a guild to act. The next second, I smacked my forehead. I believe the news about the Gregor site is not new. The Sword Guild and another similar guild might have known about this long ago. But they can't act daringly and implement their plans when the government such as the police force is staring at their back. Everything became clear as I connected all those dots. One thing is related to another, I muttered to myself. I believe people from the police department also know about the Gregor site. Should I leak the information about Sword Guild's actions at Vast Plains? I held up my chin in contemplation. No wonder the powerful guilds was acting boldly recently. Because it seems a good side hustle to me. I can make money by selling secret information. As this thought rose in my heart, I immediately searched the police force webpage. Soon the page began to appear clearly. I immediately accessed the information section. The primary upload of this chapter happened on Novel B1111 and I saw two things under the information section. One is the information published by them and the other one is the citizen section where I can notify them about a certain issue. After spending a few more minutes on the webpage, I found no option about selling information. Is there no options about it? I hardly doubt it. Looks like I need to ask someone working inside the police force. Then I immediately thought of the certain person. I don't know whether Mr. Lawrence will attend my call. A trace of apprehension appeared in my eyes. Getting in touch with the police force is like a double-edged sword. I will get hurt if I'm not careful. But I have a good opinion of Mr. Lawrence. Last time he provided me with life-saving items. So there is nothing wrong with asking him about it. After gaining some clarity in my thoughts, I decided to contact him later. Because now is not the time. When it comes to news about Leon Willie's demise, I don't know how to react. I just hope that the police force can remove the remaining poison daggers rogue wizards as soon as possible. Then I got up from the bed to go outside. After closing the webpage, I walked downstairs. I saw my brother is having breakfast alone. It will be some time before my mom and dad come back from their shift. Then without minding him, I sat opposite him. Where were you yesterday? Brian Carey asked. Hearing that, I looked into his eyes. I can see he is looking at me with a doubtful gaze. Was he awake last night? A question appeared in my heart. It's possible he might have heard the sound of footsteps. Cough. I went to my friend's house, I said with a cough. I don't think it's true, Brian said. Every time you come up with the same line of an excuse, Brian added further. Brian's suspicions about his brother are getting worsened. He had a strong feeling that his brother is hiding something from them. But he doesn't know what is it exactly. The topic of the Claudia gym has already been discussed. So there is nothing new for him to bring up. But Brian has a vague feeling that something else is going on. At the same time, I remained silent after hearing my brother's question. As expected of my brother, he is curious about my recent activities. Nothing is going on actually. So you can stop worrying unnecessarily, I said to him. After saying that, I resumed eating. I just want to leave this place as soon as possible. On the other hand, Brian Carey wasn't okay with his brother's response. He feels it's not a genuine answer. Is he spending his time on training? Brian thought to himself. A quick glint flashes into his eyes when he thought about subtaboo magic power. Looking at Vincent, a thought rose in his heart. He wants to see the power of gravity. At first, he hasn't considered it seriously. Because Vincent awakened his magic power recently. So he had no idea about competing earlier. But now out of nowhere, he had this sudden urge to test his brother's strength. Vincent, why don't we spar against each other later? Brian asked. He was genuine this time. I halted my movements after hearing a sudden proposal from Brian. I put the spoon on the plate before looking at him. I saw his expression was a bit serious. Like he was thinking I'm a big shot. But I'm not foolish enough to expose my strength. I revealed a bitter smile before saying, what happened to you? It will take at least 1 year for me to get good strength. So I'll consider after then. After saying that, I continued eating. Brian Carey was at a loss of words. He can't refute his brother's words because it's true. Then again, he is not in a hurry anyway. He will wait until his brother gains some strength. 5 minutes later, I left home after breakfast. I'm a bit surprised by Brian's intention. He is looking forward to fighting with me. Shaking my head, I walked along the road. I reached the school premise 15 minutes later. Seeing the familiar gate, I sighed inwardly. Yesterday, I had such terrific experience. Fortunately, I'm able to come back. Hereafter, I should stick to the school until I reach level 2. Then I retracted the unnecessary thoughts and walked forward to enter the school. I was not alone. There are also other staff and students entering beside me. I walked along with them. Suddenly, out of nowhere, I began to hear whispers. Strangely, I felt I heard my name. Then I glanced around to see where it was coming from. Behind, a group of girls gossiping among themselves. From the group, someone pointed fingers at me before talking among themselves. Seeing that, I wrinkled my eyebrows in confusion. I'm somewhat sure that they are talking about me, but I don't know what is the topic of their discussion. Then I spotted their badge. They are from Class A2, then I eased down my eyebrows after spotting that. Maybe they are discussing past events. Then I turned back and walked into the school. Like always, I decided to wait for Fatty in the waiting area. I don't know what's going on with him. There is no message whatsoever. Before I turned to walk in a different direction, I heard someone calling out my name. Vincent. Hearing that, I turned around to face the person. I saw a group of students from the previous class. They are old classmates from Class A2. Again? I said. Earlier, those girls. Now these people. I don't know what is their deal. But I greeted with a smile. Hey guys, how have you been lately? I asked. Hearing that, everyone remained silent for a moment, looking at their complicated expression. I understand something is up. I had taken one day off. So what major thing possibly happened yesterday? Lots of questions appeared in my mind. Okay, I don't like suspense. Can you tell me what is going on? I said in a stern tone. I went straight to the point instead of watching drama playing out in front of me. Hearing my words, they looked into each other's eyes before turning toward me. I glanced around the surroundings and I realized our conversation is slowly drawing the attention of others, including staff and another teacher. This is unusual, I uttered in surprise, which further confirms my suspicions that something had gone wrong, and the event might be related to me. As this thought rose in my heart, my mind quickly thought of something else. Jake House? The late 5th rank wizard in my class. Did the school catch something? No way, I was clear in my implementation. There are no such traces left behind by me. When I was lost in my thoughts, I heard someone calling out my name again, Vincent. This time I saw very familiar faces. They are my current classmates and enemies. Seeing the appearance of Chrissy Hart, Bruce Hill and Mark Spear, the wizard students from Class A2 immediately left the place. When the poisonous trio was approaching me, I saw something interesting. A quick glint flashed into my eyes as I saw fear in their eyes. It's different from the complicated expression of old classmates. These three were scared of me. As far as I remember, I haven't done anything lately. Ever since I adopted the policy of low-key development, I stopped making plans inside the school. Rather, I focused on the wilderness. When the trio appeared in front of me, Chrissy Hart opened her mouth to say, Vincent, come with us to the clinic. Clinic, I said. The inception of this chapter's publication is linked to B00KW0RM. Hearing that, Bruce and Mark Spear took a step backwards. Seeing that, I began to feel little irritation. Chrissy Hart saw changing expression of Vincent. She immediately answered, something happened yesterday when you were not present. Hearing that, I turned towards Chrissy Hart and nodded at her before saying, tell me everything. Chrissy's heart calmed down her racing heart before started explaining from the beginning. On the other hand, some students left the place, while others decided to stand back and watch the fun. The events which had happened yesterday shocked everyone. When Chrissy Hart started explaining, my expression turned a bit solemn. Chrissy Hart began to stumble due to fear. Seeing that, I maintained my composure. But when she revealed the fact that the fatty Lucas was bedridden due to severe injury, and all of this happened because of Liam Baker and Easton Brown, I got pissed off. These guys dared to act against my only sponsor. If he got bedridden, how am I supposed to eat manna meat in future? Liam Baker and Easton Brown caused damage to my interest. My heart boiled in anger realizing that. On the other hand, the crowd and the trio thought otherwise. They assumed Vincent is getting angry because someone touched his best friend. Some female wizards in the crowd got emotional. Even Chrissy Hart, Bruce and Mark Spear felt the same way. They were expecting Vincent's reaction. Seeing the crowd getting larger, I calmed down my heart. But I don't understand who gave Liam such courage to act against new students. The image of Frank Lambert comes to mind. Is it him? Then looking at Chris Hart, I asked, oh, what about others? Did you see anyone beside Liam? Hearing that, Chrissy Hart shook her head in denial and replied, no. We saw Liam Baker instructed Easton Brown to thrash Lucas Brad in front of many wizard students, Chrissy Hart said. Hearing that, I stopped asking any more questions. I felt it's better to ask Fatty once he recovers from injury. The next second, I walked in the direction of the clinic instead of giving a reply to them. Thud. Chrissy heart collapsed to the ground as she loses strength in her leg. Phew, she exhaled in relief. Bruce Hill and Mark Spear went forward to support her. Both are not good looking either. Their back is completely drenched in sweat. Mark Spear said, "I thought he would use his gravity magic on us." After saying that, he gulped his saliva in fear. Ha ha ha, a Chrissy heart let out a bitter laugh before saying, "You stole my words." She had more fear than both as she is the one revealing the news to Vincent. She then tries to get up from the ground. After standing up, Chrissy Hart asked Bruce Hill, "What are you thinking?" Bruce Hill replied, "I felt it's unreal. Normally, Vincent will use his magic to suppress us. But this time he had controlled his impulse somehow." Bruce added further. Chrissy Hart nodded her heart. She also noticed this thing, then she found the crowd is still looking at them. She replied, "Let's leave. I have a feeling that Vincent will do something." Hearing that, Bruce said with a laugh, "Ah ha ha, Liam deserves it. He went overboard with his calculations." Then three of them walked away from this place towards the A-rank building. On the other hand, I reached the school clinic in a few minutes. Looking at the familiar building, old memories surface in my mind. Then I slowly walked up to the waiting area. There is no one at the front desk. Seeing that, I found an empty chair to sit on. Next, my gaze lands on one of the clinic rooms. Because this one lit up with lights. Little Stargate High School. Creak of the door opens. An old woman wearing a white coat on top walked out of the room. Seeing her face, I recognized her immediately. She is probably the oldest living mage here. The woman is none other than Meryl Jade. I got up from my seat and walked up to her. My presence startled her a little bit. But before I could ask her, she said, "You are that same brat, right? Couple of weeks ago, 3 students were bedridden because of you," she said while pointing her fingers at me. I don't know whether to take it as a compliment. Cough. I let out a small cough before saying, "Yes, that was me. But this time I came here to see my friend." A quick glint flashed into her old dull eyes as she finally realized. "Oh, all right. This fat kid is your friend," she replied. Hearing that, I nodded. "Then come with me." After saying that, she walked back into the room. Seeing that, I followed her behind. I hope nothing serious happens to my good sponsor. After entering inside, I saw her checking upon the patient. Seeing the familiar face, I quickly walked up to the bed to take a good look at him. "How is he?" I asked while looking at Lucas' pale face. My expression turned a little bit solemn because his condition looked serious. Meryl Jade looked at the young man before turning towards the patient. She slowly began to tell. She said his jaws were broken. He also suffered a few rib fractures along with it. Except that, there is no life-threatening injury. Hearing that, I breathed in relief, thank goodness. I can eat free manna food in future. Looking at Fatty's face, I couldn't help but say in my heart, my sponsor get well soon. But I didn't say it loud. Then after taking one glance at him, I turned around to leave. "Little guy, don't send me more patients. I have been exhausted lately," and Meryl Jade said jokingly. I almost choked myself hearing that. This old woman is joking with me. Then shaking my head, I immediately left the hall. After walking out of the building, I took a deep breath. She is the oldest mage-like living fossil. I don't know how to address her. Doctor? Or healer? Both sound a little odd to me. I feel I should call her teacher, though she is technically not. Then I thought about Fatty Lucas. Now that he is fine, I need to quickly think of my next move. I believe everyone is expecting what I'm going to do right now. But my options are limited, keeping in mind that we got a new headmaster now. I don't know about him. Then I saw the time. There are still 10 minutes left before the first class. Suddenly, I realized one important thing. The guy, Easton Brown, usually comes to the class before the last minute. I still have time to encounter him before going to the class. The next second, I immediately dashed towards the entrance/exit gate. On the way, I saw students still coming in. But I rushed past them. My actions immediately drew the attention of others. But apart from a rank, students from other divisions rarely recognize me. So after glancing at me, some of them continued their walking. Only 1 or 2 people from the A-rank division stayed behind. Without minding them, I walked out. After exiting, I decided to wait for him. I walked in the right direction and stood under the shade of a tree. When I was quietly standing, I found people staring at me. They were none other than people who choose to stay behind and watch the fun. Apart from a few, I don't know the name of the others. Right now, only a few pedestrians can be seen. Time went by. When it was 5 minutes left, I spotted a familiar face from distance. I saw Easton Brown is coming alone. My first instinct was to crush his bones under my gravitational field. Since he is a power-type wizard, gravity magic will take some time to provide the effect. So I'm going to use my fist to answer him. Before he could realize what is going on, I decided to take initiative to attack him first. The next second, I released my magic pressure and rushed towards Easton Brown at full speed. Gasp! A sudden exclamation broke out from the small group of students who gathered outside of the school gate. Whoosh! My speed was so fast that in a few breaths I appeared in front of him. Seeing my appearance, Easton widened his eyes in surprise. Wait! Before he could finish his words, I punched him in the face. At this time, I forgot about all those statistics in my mind. Right now my only urge was to thrash him. Bang! Before Easton Brown could think straight, my fist lands a terrible hit on his face. I felt like I'm hitting an iron plate. But my strength is enough to make him stagger backwards. Easton Brown took a few steps backwards before stabilizing his balance. At this moment, he was shocked to the core. The disbelief is written on his face. At the last moment, he managed to manipulate mana. Normally this would have blocked the attack as he used his iron physique. But right now, Vincent managed to punch him using body strength alone. He felt a burning sensation on the left side of his face. Easton Brown felt the power of the punch. Is he a newly awakened wizard? Wrong. At the same time, I wasn't surprised by my power. More or less, I guess this would be the result. But if it was 1 week later, I would have made him bedridden with this punch. Well, it doesn't stop me from beating him now. Seeing that he is adjusting his posture, I cast a spell. Gravity push, I said. In the next second, gray color energy was released at the enemy from my palm. It all happened in a blink of an eye. When the energy lashed onto Easton, I instantly released gravity mana. Easton Brown just adjusted himself from getting that brutal punch. Arg! He felt like getting hit by a moving truck. Unknowingly, he let out a scream in pain. Thud! The next thing he knew, his body flew over like a broken kite and crashed into the walking path. Okay, this looked much better, I mumbled under my breath. The spell worked out because the opponent didn't use his spell to defend himself. Seeing him crawling on the ground, I dashed towards him to give him another beating. Easton Brown's iron physique magic is something else. Like a good punching bag, he can withstand several beatings. Outside, the commotion grew stronger by watching the fight between two wizard students. Especially the wizard students who were watching the fun. They quickly began to spread the messages to their classmates. Gravity failed, I said after walking up to him. Seeing our fight, the pedestrians quickly left the place. No one came near us. A tremendous gravitational pressure appeared out of nowhere and immediately descended upon Easton Brown. Easton Brown is trying to get up, but he immediately felt the terrifying pressure above him. Looking at Vincent, he realized that it's the sub-taboo power. Even at this moment, he couldn't fathom why Vincent is so strong. But this is not the time for doubts. He knows if this goes on, he will probably end up worse. So he decided to use his defensive spell to withstand the pressure. But before he could do that, Vincent kicked at his legs. The origin of this chapter's debut can be traced to N0V3LB1N. Damn it, he screamed out loud. Before using his defensive spell, Iron Cover. On the other hand, I made him kneel using the kick. I can freely walk around under my field. But this is not the case with Easton Brown. If he tries to get up again, I will kick him. Suddenly, I saw Easton's skin changing into silver color. Seeing that, a cold glint flashed into my eyes. I recalled his statistics. This sudden change in his skin color is due to a defensive spell called an Iron Cover. I quickly connected the dots. Soon the rest of the skin also turned into silver color. He almost looked like a silver man. Just when I was taking a good look at the silver skin, I heard a deep voice from behind, Vincent Carey, dispel your magic spell right now. Hearing that, I turned around to see where the voice is coming from. Class teacher Eric walked in with a tense face. Seeing that, I sighed inwardly. Now that he has arrived, he won't let me continue to use spells. The next second, I removed the gravity spell instantly. The gravitational field disappears. But Easton Brown is still crawling over on the ground. Eric Wallace quickly arrived in front of them. Looking at both, he said, both of you, walk with me to the headmaster's office. Little Stargate High School. Eric Wallace led both of his students to the headmaster's office. On the way, he couldn't help but recall in mind what he had just witnessed now. An 11th rank wizard was thrashed by a newcomer. He couldn't help but glance at Vincent. How long has it been? It is not even a month over. But Vincent can fight against the top-rank wizards. Such a power, where is this coming from? Sub-taboo magic? Eric furrowed his eyebrows in confusion. But he is genuinely shocked by Vincent's combat strength. On one hand, the issue of Lucas' bread has already spread like wildfire inside the school. Now he has another issue at hand right now. He doesn't know how the new headmaster will react. Unfortunately, he was not present yesterday. So this matter is yet to resolve. When it comes to Liam Baker, he will come to the headmaster's cabin directly later. So there is no need to wait for him. After entering the school, he quickly walked toward the management building. On the other hand, I looked at Easton Brown from time to time. But he was averting his gaze. I saw there is no arrogance or contempt in his eyes other than shock, doubt, and confusion. I wasn't surprised by seeing his myriad expressions. I'm sure he is not expecting me to come at him like this. But still, I'm not satisfied. I will challenge him during the next combat class. By then my attributes would have been increased. And I will have no problem taking care of him. Then retracting thoughts from that, I shifted to current things. Everything happened because of Liam Baker. He was the mastermind behind this incident. But surprisingly, I didn't see him entering the school today. After a few minutes, we reached the headmaster's cabin. Only at this time, I began to think about him. When I saw him during combat class last time, the new headmaster appeared to be calm and composed. He seemed to be kind. I hope he won't handle things like the former headmaster Collins. The class reached and stepped inside after opening the door. Both of us then quietly followed him to enter inside. As I walked into the room, my attention is immediately drawn to the white coat. Next, my gaze landed on the small name stand on the table. Chester Nixon, I said in my heart. I saw the new headmaster noticed our presence, but he is busy working on the screen. Seeing that, we stood in silence without disturbing him. A few minutes later, another person walked into the room. Seeing him, a cold glint flashed into my eyes. Liam Baker entered the room as if nothing had happened. But when he saw me, his face completely changed. It has become ugly. I can only think the news must have reached his ears. Before I could think of something else, I heard a coughing sound. I turned and saw the headmaster Nixon is looking at us. Who is Liam Baker here? The headmaster asked. Hearing that, I glanced at Liam. Headmaster, I'm Liam Baker. Liam raised his hand immediately. But I saw there is no fear on his face. Like he had come prepared to tackle everything here. Why did you instigate the fight between your classmates? Chester Nixon inquired. There is a report on his desk. He went through it before they came here. He saw through the crux of the matter. The issue is nothing but typical rivalry between the students. But still, he has to punish the students for breaking this rule. Liam Baker, on the other hand, already thought of something. He answered, Headmaster, we were fooled by two people. We assumed Lucas Brad and Vincent Carey were strong. So we decided to test them. Since Vincent was absent yesterday, we decided to start with Lucas Brad. Surprisingly, he couldn't able to withstand Easton's attack. If we had known that Lucas is weak, we wouldn't have touched him, Liam added. He tried to portray that he was misled by the lies. Easton Brown wanted to smack Liam right away. Because Liam has falsehood in his words. Easton Brown wanted to remind him that Vincent is stronger than they had imagined. Since it's the headmaster's office, he can't voice his opinion loudly. But Chester Nixon's cunning eyes were already seen through Liam's lies. Since he has no formal teaching experience, he won't know what type of punishment should be given. Then he looked at the class teacher Eric and asked, what do you think? Eric Wallace standing like a statue. But he was startled after hearing the voice. Is he asking my suggestion? He thought to himself. The next second, he blurted out something without thinking. I think a few weeks of suspension would be enough. A quick glint flashed into Chester Nixon's eyes. Then he said, all right, here I suspend Liam Baker for 2 months and Easton Brown for 1 month. Hearing that, Eric Wallace was stunned. He felt the days of suspension were high. He wanted to tell something, but after seeing the intense eyes of the new headmaster, he stopped himself midway. He heard that the new headmaster is specially appointed by Chairman Benjamin. So he doesn't want to offend both by doing this. Liam and Easton are both top wizards in the class. So he feels the suspension won't affect them that much. Easton Brown now totally regretted his stupid actions. He shouldn't have agreed to help Liam in the first place. But he feels fortunate that the matter ended with suspension. On the other hand, Liam Baker was furious in his heart. Because he was punished more than Easton Brown. Unsatisfaction is seen on his face. Headmaster, I didn't do anything actually, Liam tried to convince, but before he could finish his words, Chester Nixon replied, if you do the same thing again, you will be demoted to Class A2. Period, he added. Hearing that, Liam closed his mouth. He doesn't want to see himself in Class A2 fighting for resources. Now he is suddenly satisfied with the punishment which he has received. Before the new headmaster could change his mind, he wants to go home right away. Fortunately, the new headmaster instructed them to leave the next second. On the other hand, seeing Liam and Easton walking away just like that, I don't know what to do. To be honest, I'm not okay with the punishment. But it can't be helped right now, because I'm not sure what type of punishment he will give me. Chester Nixon found still 2 people didn't leave the room. Seeing that, he asked, what about you guys? Class teacher Eric quickly explained what had happened outside. Sighed, Chester Nixon let out a deep sigh before looking at Vincent Carey. Seeing the familiar face, he quickly recalled the duel that happened during the combat class. Realizing that his expression eases down a little bit, he replied, you see, your actions might impact the image of the school. So do you understand? Where did you go wrong? Hearing that, I immediately shook my head in response. Chester Nixon commented, the thing with the elite class is that everyone has some organization standing behind them. So school can't impose serious restrictions on them or give some harsh punishment. But as school management, we can't let you exploit the loopholes. In my opinion, punishment should be given at least. So for you, it's 2 weeks of suspension. I hope after returning, you will not do these brawls. If you want to fight, you can do it during combat challenge, Chester Nixon said. When I heard 2 weeks of suspension, images of mom and dad flashed before my eyes. I don't know whether to laugh or cry, but I feel somewhat lucky compared to those 2. It is just 2 weeks, I can return in no time. My worries were swept away after gaining some clarity in my thoughts. But it's pity that I can't smash those 2 in any time sooner. I'll have to wait for 1 or 2 months for them to come back. On the other hand, Eric Wallace was again surprised by the suspension given to Vincent. He thought the headmaster will let him off after a warning, because technically Vincent didn't break the rules. Other than the image, the school won't suffer anything. Unfortunately, he can't have any say in this. Then both left the headmaster's cabin. After coming out of the cabin, Eric looked at Vincent and said, I'm surprised by your strength. I hope you won't waste those 2 weeks' time. I want to see you challenge the top 10 wizards, he added further. The origin of this chapter's debut can be traced to NOV3LB1N. When I heard his words, a quick glint flashed into my eyes. Because I thought of something. 2 weeks will give me enough time to raise my strength by leaps and bounds. Forget about the top 10, I will challenge 4th rank wizard Frank Lambert after 2 weeks. Then after getting advice from him, I decided to see the fatty again before leaving the school. Little Stargate High School. After Vincent left the school, the news quickly spread throughout the school campus like wildfire. Every wizard student, teacher, and administrative staff were shocked by the news. Everyone didn't expect such a decision from the new headmaster. Because this is the first time for everyone to hear that the elite students from Class A1 were punished. This is something new in their school's history. Usually the school management won't touch the Class A1 wizards. This time this news even intrigued some of the small-scale wizard organizations behind students. But everyone knows that the new headmaster has a good relationship with the school chairman. So everyone is somewhat convinced that the school is going to change in future. Class A1. When the news swept away the elite wizard in Class A1, a myriad of expressions can be seen on everyone's faces. More than Liam Baker and Easton Brown's actions, everyone is shocked by the new headmaster. Scum at GS, Frank Lambert said as he heard about this suspension news. Matthew Hunk beside him was in disbelief like everyone else. So far no one touched their elite class. Now even the school management is beginning to interfere. He doesn't know what is going to happen in future. Somewhat grim atmosphere prevailed in the class. Frank knows that the school management is disappointed by Easton Brown's action against that fat pig, Lucas Brad. But both students are from the same class. So what is the reason for the school management to interfere? At this moment, the favorability toward the new headmaster in his mind drastically reduced. Harumph, he snorted coldly thinking about the school management's courage. He noticed everything begin to change after his duel with Victoria Shields. Especially, things become unfavorable after the Star Battle platform event. Now because of Liam, the reputation of their class is going to plummet further. Hereafter, the other A-rank classes will ridicule their Class A1. Thinking about it, his face turned ugly. In the next second, the image of Vincent Carey comes to mind. Frank Lambert hoped for some clash between Vincent Carey and Liam Baker to happen. But he didn't expect a severe response from the management. Would the action be the same if he injured Vincent in future? Frank Lambert furrowed his eyebrows. He doesn't like what was happening right now. Frank Lambert then suddenly thought of something and looked at Matthew. He asked, "Matthew, what happened between Vincent and Easton Brown? I heard that they fought outside of the school." Along with the suspension news, Frank also heard students talk about the fist fight between Vincent and Easton Brown. But he couldn't believe his ears when he overheard some of the words from their mouth. On the other hand, Matthew Hunk was startled. He knows where Frank is getting at. Even he couldn't believe some of the rumors. Some say Vincent had completely suppressed Easton Brown using his power, while some others say Vincent made a sneak attack against Easton, making Easton unable to use his magic during the fight. There were multiple talks, but he can't tell which one to choose. Matthew knows only students who were present at the time know about the whole event. "Frank, there were many rumors. I don't know which one to tell," Matthew replied. Frank was stunned. How long it has been. Their fight had happened an hour ago. So how hard is it to verify the information? Suddenly, Frank thought about something. His lips curved into arcs as he remembers a certain person. Eric Wallace will come next for their second class. Frank knows that class teacher Eric was the one who put an end to their fight. Maybe he knows the truth. Simultaneously, a similar conversation happened among the other students. Especially Victoria's eyes gleamed with a twinkle. This newcomer is not afraid of the top wizards, she thought to herself. She is curious about Vincent Carey. Rumors are rumors, but there is some truth to them. Vincent Carey was the first one to initiate the attack against Easton Brown. There is no falsehood in this information. Victoria feels that the coming days will be more interesting than ever. Because the changes taking place in school management not only alerted her, it cautioned everyone. Of all the students, 3 people were very glad to hear the news. "So we are going to be free for 2 months, Bruce Hill said with a smile. He can't believe that they are going to spend school days without Liam Baker. 3 of them can do whatever they want in the coming days. Bruce Hill revealed a wide smile on his face unknowingly. Chrissy Hart chuckled. She feels a huge weight lifted off her shoulder. Because of Liam's strong hatred against Vincent, they couldn't help but have anxiety. But right now she feels relaxed and free. Then suddenly she turned towards Mark, who is sitting right next to Bruce. She asked, "Mark, do you want to say something?" She found Mark is spacing out. She wants to know what's on his mind. Mark Spear retracted his thought before looking at both. He replied, "I'm thinking about Vincent's fight against Easton." Hearing that, Chrissy Hart's eyes gleamed with a twinkle. On the other hand, Bruce immediately answered, "But people saw that Easton didn't use his magic against Vincent." L1 Terrarian 0v3L hosted the first appearance of this chapter at n0vel.b1n. Chrissy Hart commented, "So we don't know who is the winner?" Bruce Hill nodded his head. Likewise, many wizards and students were puzzled and intrigued by the news, except for a few students who saw the confrontation. Time passed. The following days went well without any drama. Class teacher Eric refrained from making comments on the confrontation between Easton and Vincent, because Eric knows it will create further controversy. So he didn't tell anyone except combat teacher Freeman. Like many of them, Freeman found it suspicious. But he respected the information coming out from the class teacher himself. So Freeman decided to wait until Vincent comes back, because he had already thought about a nice plan to find out the truth. Lucas Brad was discharged after 5 days. He completely recovered from his injuries. When he walked out of the clinic, he came to know about the recent events, which left him bewildered and dumbfounded. But he was glad to know that brother Vincent has got only 2 weeks of suspension. At the same time, he also felt warmth in his heart. Brother Vincent fought because of him. Lucas Brad feels blessed to have such a brother behind his back. He decided to meet Vincent sooner. On the other hand, using the days due suspension, Vincent Carey freely spent many hours in the wilderness as a hunter. He didn't reveal the news about the suspension to his parents. He left home in the morning as usual and returned in the evening. To match the school timings, Vincent hunted around the outer area. He didn't even get near the diving edge. From time to time, he met with the fatty for a chat. Both had a long discussion. Especially, Vincent inquired about the school news. He wanted to be updated with the latest information. Vincent came to know that school management is busy constructing a new building for a special class. The information is tightly wrapped. Because of its fatty couldn't able to inquire further news. Everyone from Class A1 is keeping an eye on this issue. They want to know why the school management is interested in this building instead of concentrating on their elite class. Earlier, everyone demanded a monster hunting excursion, but so far no step has been taken to approve their request. Top wizards are showing clear dissatisfaction against the school management and the new headmaster, especially the new headmaster Chester Nixon. People saw him rarely walk out of his office. But the elite wizards were sure that the appointment of the new headmaster is something to do with the construction of the new building. Time passes in the blink of an eye. 1 week later. Carey residence? Phew, I breathed in relief as I looked at my account. Currently, I got 3,000 alliance points in total. I can practice for 6 hours at the Claudia gym. But due to my core limit, I can only do it for 3 hours a day. Now, I only got 1 week on my hands. Practicing at the Claudia gym will further reduce the days by 2. To be honest, I'm not satisfied with my current wealth. This time, I didn't kill or looted anyone. Otherwise, my earnings would have been many-fold. I had amassed this wealth after hunting down many first-order monsters. The image of a certain person comes to my mind. I'm hoping to defeat the 4th-rank wizard Frank Lambert. I want to raise the attributes by 10 points. So my current wealth is not enough for that. I need to earn 1,500 alliance points more. After some contemplation, I made a decision. Tomorrow, I will go to the Claudia gym. Then after increasing my attributes, I will enter the wilderness. And this time, I'll go to the vast plains. Only on vast plains I can come across many monsters. Who knows? I can make double the amount after this trip. A quick glint flashed into my eyes as I found this plan more suitable. The Claudia gym, Red City. 2 days later. System, show my status panel, I said to the system. Ding. The host's command is recognized. Ding. Level up system. Status panel. Host's name, Vincent Carey. Magic power, gravity. Mage level 1 limiter. 1.5 years remain to level up. Mental method, gravity arc, running. Grade, Earth. Running mode, automatic. Rate of absorption, 80%. Gravity core status, 13%. Progressing, 5.5%/month. Core formless. Mana power, 700. Mana capacity, 700. Talent, top bottom, upgradable. Color pale orange. Strength, 44. Speed, 43. Stamina, 45. Vitality, 85. Intelligence, 39. Soul power, 36. Constitution, 37. Mental power, 40. Spells, 3. 1. Gravity field, 2. Gravity push, 3. Gravity pull. Slots filled, 3. When I noticed the status panel, my eyes twinkled. This time, my attributes surpassed the 40-point threshold. I can now easily fight mid-range first-order monsters. My current alliance point balance is 1,200. Thanks for yesterday's wilderness hunt. I can still come back tomorrow and improve my status by 2 points. But this does not satisfy me. I still have 5 days to go. If I can make the most of the remaining 2 days, more than 3,000 alliance points will be available to main. The money will then be used to help me practice here. I believe that if everything goes well, I will be able to exceed the 50-point limit. Then my strength will be sufficient to deal with all except the top 3 wizards on the list. The top 3 are extremely dangerous. I've seen Victoria's status panel, and her magical power is incredible. It's not your average magic. I muttered to myself thinking, ice cold sword. She is a swordsman wizard, so her fighting style is quite different. I'm not sure if I can pull her into my gravitational field. If my memory serves me correctly, her attributes were above 40 the last time I checked. She must have gained some strength by this point. Sigh. Before I realized the difference between us, I let out a deep sigh. But it's unavoidable when it comes to the top 3 wizards. I can only develop myself quietly and challenge them when the time comes. On top of that, I have no idea how powerful the top 2 wizards are. A quick glint flashed into my eyes as I remembered Brent Dale and Danny Quinn. Why do I have the impression that they are extremely powerful? For a brief moment, I was at a loss. I quickly removed those unnecessary thoughts from my mind. First and foremost, I need to get my SHT together. I need to take things slowly at first. I decided to leave after gaining some clarity in my thoughts. I have to go hunting for more monsters in the wilderness tomorrow. The following day? The Dividing Edge, Wilderness? I'm hoping to find some game, I muttered under my breath. Since my strength reached 40, I've felt a surge of confidence in my heart. As if I'm no longer afraid of approaching a dividing line. Previously, I avoided this dividing line unless absolutely necessary. It's common to come across other hunters and monsters here. But things changed after my strength improved. I can move around this place with confidence. With the exception of level 2 wizards, I'm confident of evading powerful level 1 wizards who have reached their absolute limit. And level 3 wizards are unlikely to visit this small wilderness. Unless it's absolutely necessary, such as the Gregor site. When I remembered the Sword Guild, I felt a twinge of fear in my eyes. I'm perched on one of the tall tree branches. I can see the various hill peaks from here. Aside from monsters, I'm keeping an eye on the movements of hunters these days. Earlier, I assumed the Sword Guild's wizard would act right away. Because they have a good opportunity because the police headquarters is in disarray. Surprisingly, there is no wind at all. So far, I haven't noticed any unusual activity around here. It perplexed me even more. Everyone seemed to have abruptly ceased operations. Whoosh! I was lost in thought when I heard a rustling sound ahead of me. When I heard that, I decided to investigate. System, probe the monster details, I said to the system. Ding! The host's voice is recognized. Ding! The command is initiated %. Status panel. Name, Wild Deer. Level, First Order, Early Level. Strength, 25. Vitality, 24. Speed, 21. Stamina, 23. Skill, Wild Sprint. The primary upload of this chapter happened on NOV3LB1N. In front of my eyes was a large status panel. When I realized it was a deer monster, a wide smile spread across my face. These monsters are usually found in groups. So it's unusual to see a single one out here by themselves. Fortunately, I can earn a decent income by selling this monster. In the next second, I jumped off the branch. I don't want to chomp down the monster. So I'm going to end its life without the use of magic. Aside from its enormous size, the buck stands 6 feet tall. I'm more concerned about its massive antlers. I decided to move slowly because of the sharp edge of the antler. The buck, on the other hand, is happily grazing on the ground. It was completely unaware of the impending danger. But then its left ear heard something. Someone is approaching at a snail's pace. Whoosh! The deer monster sprinted away at full speed the next second. Gravity failed, I said as I prepared to cast a spell. When the spell was cast, a massive amount of pressure appeared out of nowhere. It immediately descends on the deer monster like a circular cage. The buck attempted to flee from this location out of fear. However, the gravitational pressure was so great that it resembled a cage. Due to the pressure, the buck twists its leg and falls to the ground. Thud! The monster's massive body slammed into the ground with great force. The monster screamed in agony as a result of that terrible hit. Finally, I said, smiling. I underestimated the monster's ability to sprint. The monster can run twice as fast with this ability. That is very close to my current speed. If I hadn't been careful, the monster would have gotten away. The gravity field spell was then cancelled. Because the buck is currently injured, there is no need to waste mana. I draw the black dagger to end the monster's life. Whoosh! I vanished from the scene in the next second. Puff! However, blood was spilled on the ground the next second, as evidenced by the red line on its neck. The buck's head was then separated from its neck. Then the massive head was rolled across the ground. At the same time, I removed the crystal gem from the buck's head with my dagger. Fortunately, the buck did not turn its head in terror. Otherwise, these massive antlers would have caused issues. I placed the peanut-sized crystal gem inside my storage bracelet after removing it. I'll need to find a place to dissect the monster's body next. Clap! Before I could continue, I heard clapping from behind me. My expression changed dramatically after hearing that. Unfortunately, I let my guard down for a brief moment. Now I have to look after these people. I turned around to see a group of 5 men. I squinted my eyes to see if they were coming from the vast plains or the outskirts. Hey, brat. Why don't you give us that monster? With a smile, the leader said. The 4 other hunters burst out laughing. They couldn't help but drool when they saw the massive buck. At the same time, rather than responding, using the system, I dug into their specifics. When I discovered that they are level 1 wizards with attributes just under 30, my face lit up with a huge smile. I was disappointed last week when I didn't come across any stupid wizards to loot. Looting wizards will earn you more money than selling monster meats and crystal gems. Fortunately, my wish to exceed the 50-point limit in attributes will come true. Thank you so much, wizards. When I realized what had happened, I laughed. What are you laughing about, young man? The leading wizard inquired. He was the team's leader. The hunter's gaze was drawn to the buck's carcass. Next, he looked at the young man who had killed this buck. Before the young man could respond, the middle-aged man issued a warning, saying, "You should hand over this buck's body to us. Otherwise." "Gravity field," I explained. I pull a black dagger from the storage field. The middle-aged man's face changed dramatically as a foreboding feeling overwhelmed his heart. He was terrified SHT. He felt a massive mountain slam into his body before he realized it. Puff. Everyone slammed to the ground at full force the next second, coughing up blood. Someone's head was injured and others thought their chest bones were broken. The hunters were frightened. They were celebrating the fact that they were going to eat manhwa meat at one point. But the next thing you know, everyone's life is hanging by a thread. The hunters writhed on the ground. The middle-aged man's eyes show that he wanted to plead. However, their fate has already been decided. Puff. Blood gushes from their neck. The wizards noticed something on their necks in the blink of an eye. Within the next second, multiple heads rolled across the ground. I slashed the hunter's throat quickly with my dagger. When I was done, I put the dagger back in my storage bracelet. When it comes to killing, the dagger is very handy. Then I proceed to rob the hunters of their valuables. Time passed. I sat down on one of the tree branches. Everything was cleared out in 10 minutes. And now I get to see the storage items. First, I took the storage bracelet from the middle-aged man. When I used my mental strength to probe, I discovered no limitations. Then I looked into the storage area. As is customary, there are numerous items piled up, ranging from potions to herbs. Scrolls and other safety items are placed inside the storage bracelet. However, seeing these items did not surprise me, because they are all used by level 1 wizards. It won't bring you much money if you sell it. After that, I checked the storage items for the other 4 bracelets. Poor fellows, I muttered under my breath when I noticed how few items were in the storage bracelets. My brow furrowed as I noticed this. If I want to make money by looting, I need to change my goal. Then I decided to venture into the hill areas. Time passed. I arrived at the familiar location after an hour. It's the small plains big shade tree. This is right before the foot of the hill peaks. The inaugural upload of this chapter took place via B1NN0V3L. I had previously fought against large wolf packs. I'm not sure if I'll be able to see any monsters today. When I was resting in the shade of the massive tree, I heard several voices from a distance. When I heard that, I immediately sat up and decided to confirm one more time. I heard the same voice when I perked up my ears to listen. There is no question about it. It is the people's voice. I realized that hunters, like me, had come here to rest. I jumped onto a tree branch the next second. I found a suitable hiding place. After 5 minutes, 3 wizards arrived at this massive tree. When I saw the suspicious badge on their chest, a cold glint flashed into my eyes. Because the badge was shaped like a sword, I immediately thought of the Sword Guild. These days, I have to say, I'm constantly in contact with Sword Guild wizards. But I'm not sure if this is a good thing. I noticed 3 of them staring at each other. When I noticed this, I perked up my ears to listen. Something intriguing is happening down there. Give me my fair share, Max. I don't want to go hunting any longer. In a solemn tone, a scarred wizard inquired. 3 of them are dressed in a black adventurer suit, as opposed to the standard green model. But each of them wore a different badge on their chest. A silver sword-shaped badge. The other 2 were alarmed when they heard the scar-faced wizard's words. Max, the group's leader, wore a black mask to conceal his face. He has a slim build. In contrast to the scarred wizard, his body appeared to be riddled with holes. He was severely injured. To stop the bleeding, potions were applied to the injured areas. When asked to share the profits, the leader Max's face darkened. Max is well aware that doing so now will result in his death. He has no choice but to rely on another teammate. Rick, the 3rd wizard, was a regular guy. He didn't hide his expression. When he heard the scar-faced wizard's words, he had a lot of thoughts. He chuckled as he saw Max's pleading eyes and said, "Max, I can save you if you give me your silver pattern vines." Both the scarred wizard and Max were taken aback when he said those words. Max had no idea Rick would ask for benefits at this critical juncture. The scarred wizard scowled. "I know you're a two-faced starred Rick. Do you think I'll let it happen?" While this discussion was taking place, I couldn't calm my heart on top of the tree. Vines with silver patterns. These silver pattern vines, if my memory serves me correctly, are a rare plant-type relic. It is also classified as a special relic. But aside from the image and the name, I was unable to recall the description. Because it is a unique relic, I believe its benefits should not be underestimated. If any plant-type wizards come across this relic, they will go to any length to obtain it. I'm curious where they got this relic. I feel like a pie that has fallen from the sky. How long has it been since I've come across genuine relics? My eyes twinkled with light. I'm aware that one of the guys is hurt. He's practically on his deathbed. So I only have to worry about those two. Those two will most likely fight, with the winner receiving the special relic. Simultaneously, I decided to keep an eye on my surroundings. It will be disastrous if someone interrupts at a critical moment, as it was the last time. Rick burst out laughing. Winston, you have a lot of self-esteem, Rick replied with a smile. After hearing his old name, the scar-faced wizard's expression became solemn. As someone touched his taboo, his face became distorted with rage. Whoosh! Winston, the scarred wizard, attacked the enemy with his speed magic. His movements were so quick that he appeared in front of Rick in the blink of an eye. Rick, on the other hand, was unfazed. He had anticipated this. When he saw Winston leave his spot, he immediately released his magic. Metal element. When the spell was cast, a silver-colored layer quickly formed around Rick's neck. The next second, a lethal blade touched the silver-skinned surface. Clang! A metallic sound echoed throughout the area. Rick used metal elements to shield his neck. Winston would go after his vital organs to kill him, he knew. Rick leaped backward after the block to gain some distance. The scar-faced wizard cursed him at the same time. One of the issues with fighting teammates is that everyone knows your moves. Clang! The metallic sound reverberates throughout the area as both of them employ similar tactics. The scarred wizard used his speed magic to find a gap. He can kill Rick as long as he gets some small gap. Rick, on the other hand, was entirely focused on defending his vital parts. He knows that as long as the enemy runs out of mana, he will have a good opportunity to retaliate. While this was going on, the group's leader was checking on his injury. He finally saw the real faces of his teammates today. It's due to the silver pattern vine. They decided to act because of the special relic. When he thinks about it, his heart swells with rage. He felt a sense of urgency in his heart as he witnessed the clashes between the two. One of them will undoubtedly murder him in order to conceal the truth. Puff! He coughed blood up. When he noticed this, he quickly checked his storage bracelet. He went to see if there was any leftover healing potion available. However, he discovered that his storage bracelet contained no potions. His mood deteriorated. After a few seconds of thought, a strong determination rose in his heart. In addition to the silver pattern vines, there is a black box in the corner. When Max saw it, he gulped his saliva. He doesn't want to use this unless absolutely necessary. But he got himself into a pickle today. He has to use this to kill his treacherous teammates. His eyes were filled with trepidation. If he uses this, there is no turning back. He removed the cover of the black box with his mental strength. Then he noticed a red scroll floating in midair. Max's heart skips a beat when he sees the scroll's glowing glint. The scroll's red color conveys a lethal vibe. Max's eyes were filled with determination. He decided to take his teammates with him because he was going to die anyway. Scroll tier, 1 forbidden spell / blood sacrifice. A lethal scroll containing a forbidden blood spell. For sacrifices, the forbidden spell is used. Under certain conditions, a single scroll can be used to sacrifice 1 or 2 level 1 wizards. First condition. To activate the spell, the caster must make a sacrifice. Second condition. The opponent must be a level 1 wizard. The number of enemies should not exceed 2 at any given time. Third condition. The enemy's mana should have run out. When Max remembered all of those conditions, a cold glint flashed into his eyes. I couldn't wait to snatch it from them when the word silver pattern vine echoed in my ears. But I remained calm and continued to watch the duel. Because the ongoing conflict is anything but dull. The scarred man is oppressing the enemy with his speed magic. The elemental wizard, on the other hand, is going head-to-head with the speed wizard. Despite this, the fight is heading for a draw. I have a hunch that the outcome will change sooner rather than later. Clang! The metallic sound echoed throughout the area. The lethal blade touched the silver skin once more. However, in comparison to 5 minutes ago, the silver is thin this time. This was quickly noticed by the scarred Winston, the speed wizard. He let out a sudden burst of laughter, a hee. I'll have the silver pattern vine soon, he thought to himself. He was tired of acting like a good teammate earlier. However, the appearance of the silver pattern vine forced him to abandon his disguise. He knows that if the special relic is auctioned off, he will make a fortune. He revealed a wide grin when he thought about it. Rick's breathing, on the other hand, has become faster. He realized his mana rate consumption had skyrocketed. He wasn't afraid to use his mana reserve to deal with Winston's speed magic. But once again, this has put us in this precarious position. He needs to come up with something quick. When he saw Winston's gleeful smile, his face became solemn. Did he figure it out? Rick reflected himself. He has been on the defensive since the beginning of the fight. He doesn't have many magical items in his storage bracelets. Some of them may be able to assist him in this situation. Magical artifacts, in particular, will aid him in relieving stress. Rick made the decision to use the magical artifact at the appropriate time. Then, unknowingly, his gaze was drawn to the team's leader, Max. Rick noticed Max's bleeding was worsening. Rick sneered inside as he observed no change. He will die for sure. The next thing he knew, Winston was rushing towards him again. Rick then cast a spell after noticing this. Silver stones. Several thumb-sized silver balls formed in midair in the blink of an eye. Boom! The silver balls shot at the enemy at breakneck speed the next second. The speed was so high that the sound of air tearing could be heard. This is the first time Rick has gone offensive since the battle began. He believes Winston will struggle to avoid those silver balls. The scarred Winston, on the other hand, refused to change his tactics. He once again relied on his speed to keep the opponent at bay. Unfortunately, Rick began to retaliate. He noticed Rick had used his attack spell when he was a few steps away. This twisted his face even more. Rick would eventually run out of mana, he reasoned. So he confidently resumed his tactics. However, he underestimated his opponent. Rick, unlike Max, is a cunning individual. When Winston realized his error, a cold glint flashed through his eyes. But it's too late to be sorry now, because those silver balls flashed before his eyes. In desperation, he attempted to change course. He felt immediate pain when he moved in the right direction to avoid the frontal attack. Bang! One by one, those silver balls slammed into his body. The majority of the attacks were aimed at his legs. Each silver ball ripped through his adventurer suit and struck him in the body. Both of his legs, in particular, dyed in red. The majority of the attacks were directed at his legs, and he had an uneasy feeling in his heart. Thud. He lost his balance immediately after being shot in the legs because he felt weakness all over his legs. He was unable to control his speed and crashed into a nearby tree as a result. Puff. Winston vomited blood. He attempted to stand, but his efforts were futile. His legs were severely injured. SHT. Winston cursed himself. I was careless. It's not like he's come to a dead end. His storage bracelet contains lots of arsenals. That he will almost certainly use it when he has no other option. Rick, on the other hand, sighed in relief when his attack was successful. Fortunately, he didn't use his brain, Rick reflected. He is aware that his mana reserve is running out. So it's time to call it quits. Winston will suffer further harm if he uses his remaining silver stones. While all of this was going on, the leader Max was nearing the end of his life. He's waiting for the right moment to use the blood scroll. A cruel glint flashed into his eyes as he saw both of them reach a dead end in their mana reserves. N0V3LTR0V served as the original host for this chapter's release on N0V3LB1N. Rick was approaching the crash site when he noticed him. Max thought this was an excellent opportunity. Winston's legs are injured, so he won't be able to use the speed magic for the time being. He only needs to take care of Rick. As a strong determination rises in his heart, he removes the blood scroll from the storage bracelet. All of the prerequisite conditions have been met. The scroll can be activated without difficulty. Max coughed up blood the next second. The blood sprayed on top of the scroll. The complicated runes diagram flashed red in an instant. When Max noticed this, he quickly attached the blood scroll to his chest and dashed toward his teammates at full speed. As soon as the conditions were met, the forbidden spell inscribed on the blood scroll activated. Max's demeanor immediately changed. His eyes became bloodshot. His veins are starting to appear. By the second, his skin was turning pale. He laughed hysterically when he reached the appropriate range, saying, "Ah ha ha. Winston. Rick? You treacherous bastards both can die now," Max roared before sacrificing himself. Max was instantly transformed into a blood mist by the forbidden spell. The blood mist immediately landed on Rick, who was terrified after witnessing the sudden change. The blood mist attacked his brows right away. Something seemed to be sucking Rick's blood. A shiver ran down his spine. He can't put into words how terrified he was. He tries to flee in desperation. Unfortunately, after his blood is completely drained, his body becomes a mummified corpse. The mummified corpse vanished into thin air the next second. Everything occurred in the blink of an eye. The blood mist has yet to vanish because there is one more sacrifice to be made. Winston, on the other hand, widened his eyes in disbelief. He had not expected their leader to come up with something so sinister. His heart was filled with fear. He was unable to think. He witnessed Max's transformation into a blood mist. Rick's blood was also being sucked out by blood mist, which he witnessed. Winston began to tremble in fear after witnessing their tragic ending. In his heart, he has a bad premonition that things are not over. His heart skipped a beat as he attempted to crawl across the ground. He noticed blood mist rushing towards him. He only felt a tingling in his brows before he could do anything. His mind went blank the next second. He met the same fate as Rick. The sacrifice was also completed. As a result, the blood mist began to return to the blood scroll, which is in the center of the blood mist. When the blood mist has dissipated completely, the blood scroll quickly lost its luster after its work. The intricate runes have also faded and the scroll is now nothing more than a plain sheet. Then it slowly touches down on the ground. Observing the thin, plain sheet on the ground, I'm at a loss for words to express how I felt. Initially, I assumed it would be a routine clash. But who would have guessed that an injured person would resort to such a cruel method in the end? The appearance of blood mist reminded me of evil wizards. This type of sacrificial method, I realized, is evil. I quickly decided to leave this place. Then I jumped over and landed slowly on the ground. Fortunately, after their deaths, the valuables were dropped on the ground. I began picking up the storage bracelets one by one. I immediately left the location after collecting it. Time passed. I arrived in the city several hours later. Then I spent a few more hours at the Adventurer Union, except for the special relics and other rare items, selling the stolen goods. Surprisingly, after selling the stolen items, I earned 3,500 alliance points. This will be sufficient for me to increase my strength by meditating within the mana chamber. After that, I decided to go to the Claudia gym instead of returning home. Then, 2 hours later, I arrived at my destination. The front desk clerk was surprised to see me again. Then, without looking at him, I paid the money and obtained the access code from him. I entered the mana chamber a few minutes later. The door behind me automatically shut. When I saw that, I sat cross-legged and took out the silver pattern vine. The Claudia gym. I take 3 storage bracelets after sitting cross-legged. Then I went through each of the stored items one by one. In the first and second storage bracelets, there was no silver pattern vine. My attention was drawn to the third one. My heart beats faster as I gazed at the bronze intrinsic bracelet. I retrieved the bracelet without delay. My eyes widened in surprise as I seeped my consciousness into the bracelet. My heart swelled with joy the next second, because a green vine can be seen inside the bracelet. The silver texture on the vine immediately drew my attention. Looking at the small and lovely texture, I understood why it's called a silver pattern vine. Because the silver texture appeared to be magical. I took out the silver pattern vine and held it in my palm the next second. The silver textures give me a sense of great magic. Typically, wizards create potions to fully harness the power of the silver pattern vine. But I don't have that luxury here. I started eating the vine directly after taking a look at it. As the vine juice entered my stomach, a wave of calm washed over me. When the entire vine was consumed, I felt a mental boom. My mind went blank. After 10 minutes, my consciousness has returned. This time, I noticed a significant shift in my mind. My mind appears to be much faster than before. My thought is crystal clear. The next thing I knew, my perception of my surroundings had improved. I can even detect minute details in my surroundings. At this point, I can only assume it's the work of a silver pattern vine. The vine juice combined with the strength of silver textures began to work its magic. It immediately boosts mental fortitude. Aside from the core formation for a wizard, mental and spiritual power were the most difficult to improve. Fortunately, I discovered such a rare thing before I reached the limit. It saves me a lot of time in getting to level 2. My goal of rapid progression is motivated not only by the top wizards in my class. It also has something to do with Mr. John Meyer's advice. During our first meeting, he revealed some details about the special class I'll be taking in the future. He claimed that the wizard students in the special class program were extremely powerful. So I'm going to guess that none of them will be at level 1. They are almost certainly stronger than the elite wizards in my class. As I realized this, a strong determination rose in my heart. I resolved to level up as quickly as possible. I then decided to check my panel after retracting my thoughts. System, show my status panel, I said to the system. Ding. The host command is recognized. Ding. Level up system. Status panel. Host's name, Vincent Carey. Magic power, gravity. Mage level 1 limiter. 1.5 years remain to level up. Mental method, gravity arc, running. Grade, earth. Running mode, automatic. Rate of absorption, 80%. Gravity core status, 13%, progressing. 5.5%/month. Core formless. Mana power, 300. Mana capacity, 700. Talent, top bottom, upgradable. Color pale orange. Strength, 44. Speed, 43. Stamina, 45. Vitality, 85. Intelligence, 39. Strong soul power, 40/strong. Constitution, 37. Strong mental power, 50/strong. Spells, 3. 1. Gravity field, 2. Gravity push, 3. Gravity pull. Slots filled, 3. In front of my eyes was a large status panel. My attention was drawn immediately to the mental attribute. My eyes gleamed with delight as I realized my mental power had reached the level 1 limit. My soul power has also increased by 4 points. It took me by surprise. The soul is a very complicated subject. Only the Mage Union has a wealth of knowledge on this subject. But I'm glad that my soul power has increased as well. Next, I need to find something that can boost soul power, similar to mental power. Then I notice my other qualities. As a result, my mana reserve is low. I made the decision to meditate. As I concentrated on meditating, the status panel vanished. The mental gravity arc method began to work. I gradually began to notice gray mana particles in my surroundings. The highly concentrated mana had already filled the room. This is sufficient for any low-level wizard to meditate. Time passed. I opened my eyes after an hour. Then I checked my status panel to see how much mana I had left. I sighed in relief when I saw it was full, because it will be useful for my subsequent journey through the wilderness. Then I decided to come here on the last day of suspension to accelerate my core development. This will give me an additional boost in my attributes. Time flies by in the blink of an eye. In the days that followed, I repeated the process of hunting and earning money by selling goods. I then increased my mana core progression by 3% after meditating inside the mana chamber. As a result, my attributes increased by 3 points. I returned to the hills after regaining profound strength. And this time, I came across a much higher-ranking monster. A fierce battle erupted after I ran to them. Fortunately, my timely increase in strength aided me greatly. As a result, I showed my strength and killed those monsters. On the final day of the suspension, early in the morning, knock. My sleep was disturbed by the knocking on the door. Hearing the constant knocking, I awoke from my sleep and got out of bed to open the door. Creak! When I opened the door, I saw my father standing in front of me, holding a large metal box. "What is it, Dad?" I inquired. Brad Carey, on the other hand, entered the room without answering. He examined the metal case carefully before placing it on a nearby table. My brow furrowed in perplexity. Then I approached to inquire about the metal box. "I have a hunch it has something to do with me. Mr. John sent you this metal box," a father explained. My eyes widened in surprise as I heard that .N0V3LTR0V served as the original host for this chapter's release on N0V3LB1N. I haven't heard from him in a long time. I had texted him about the poison dagger assassination attempt on me the previous time. As a result, my interest in the metal box grows significantly. What could possibly be inside the box? I then begin to open the box. "Be careful," Brad Carey cautioned. When I heard that, I nodded and carefully removed the seal. I opened the top cover after the seal was removed. Then I noticed another metal container inside it. But this metal container was different. It was completely black and it also had a display screen on top. "What is it on the inside?" Brad Carey inquired. He approached and took a step forward to inspect the item. His eyes widened in surprise when he saw the black container with the display screen. "It's a high-quality storage artifact," Brad Carey said. When I heard that, a glint flashed into my eyes. If this storage artifact is of high quality, I can make a guess. Then there must be something more valuable inside it. When I realized this, my breathing became faster. Beep! My communication watch suddenly vibrates with a notification. When I saw that, I went straight to my inbox to read the message. But when I saw the contact's name, I was taken aback. Mr. John Meyer had sent a message. My expression became solemn. I'm not sure if this is good or bad news. Then I opened the inbox and started reading the message. Brad Carey, on the other hand, has already guessed something. Because this message's timing is coincidental. When I read the message, a glint flashed into my eyes. Because what's inside the black container is far more valuable than I imagined. Mr. John did not explain everything thoroughly. However, he stated that the item contained within the storage bracelet is related to my gravity magic. and he obtained that magical material from the country known as Meteor Country. My heart was filled with excitement. This is the first time I've encountered magical material related to my magic. He also stated that he was unsure of the material's exact benefit, which is something I need to discover about myself. I looked at my father after closing the message and began to explain. Brad Carey was no stranger to the Meteor Country's name. That country is home to a variety of magical practitioners. According to legend, most of their magic mutated as a result of the fallen meteor. But Brad has no idea how much of the legend is true. Then, looking at his son, he said, "Okay, be careful with that thing." After saying that, he left the room to give his son some privacy. Vincent will use that magical item next, he knows. Creak! I sighed in relief as the door closed. I don't want my strength to be revealed in front of my father. Then I focused on the black container. My eyes were filled with apprehension. This location, I believe, is not the best place to use this magical material. I decided to use the black metal box inside the mana chamber after taking a look at it. The metal box was then placed inside my storage bracelet. Because it was still early in the morning, I decided to sleep for a few more minutes. Time passed. After a few hours, I left. I still can't believe I fooled my parents to this day. My suspension period ends today, and I'll go to school as usual tomorrow. But I must say that these last few days have been extremely fruitful for me. My strength has grown in leaps and bounds. I soon noticed an air taxi nearby. After entering, I directed the cab driver to the train station. My attention was drawn to the storage bracelet. My heartbeat quickened with anticipation. I'm not sure what kind of magical material it is, but I couldn't get my thoughts out of my head. It will continue until I inspect the contents of the black metal box. I must say that my fortune has been favorable. First and foremost, my core limit has been increased. Second, I ate the special relic vine with a silver pattern. And now I have this prize. I still have alliance points in my account. I'll use that money to raise my core limit even higher. So today is going to be a big day. Time passed. I boarded the train after arriving at the train station. I had no idea how much time had passed. I left the train station after a few hours and went to the Claudia gym. I soon arrived at my destination. When I saw the familiar staff, a smile spread across my face. He must have discovered my identity by now, especially after spotting my school mage robe the other day. I hope he doesn't ask for unnecessary information. The staff finally raised his head to see me after I approached him. He was stunned for a moment when he saw me before asking what I was doing there. After paying the fee, I received the access code for the mana chamber, as usual. On the other hand, witnessing the person's reappearance, the employees couldn't help but mutter, "Sigh, second-generation kid." He couldn't help but be envious of. But his face returned to normal in the next second. He is not to offend the second-generation child. It's best not to pry into other people's lives. He sighed quietly to himself. The staff then returned to his regular work. I arrived at the mana chamber at the same time. I waited for the door to open after entering the access code. I took a moment to take in my surroundings. Today I realized I was the first customer. As a result, other regular customers had yet to arrive. I sighed, unable to comprehend their wealth. Each wizard comes from a prosperous family. Here, I have to work hard to earn the alliance points. I entered the chamber when the door opened. The door behind me automatically shut. A glint flashed into my eyes as I decided to start with my core limit. When the timer started, a massive amount of condensed mana began to fill the room. I sat cross-legged and began to run the gravity arc mental method, feeling so full of mana. I soon began to attract a large number of gray mana particles around me. When I noticed the gray color energy within me, I began to run using the mental method. I gradually began to immerse myself in meditation. Time passed. When I felt there was no progress in mana core formation after 3 hours, I opened my eyes. I realized I had reached my daily limit. I could feel the changes happening inside my body right away. My physique has significantly improved. This sensation is new to me. I quickly realized why. I decided to check my status panel to confirm it. System, show my status panel, I requested. Ding. The host's command is recognized. Ding. Level up system. Status panel. Host's name, Vincent Carey. Magic power, gravity. Mage level 1 limiter. 1.5 years remain to level up. Mental method, gravity arc, running. Grade, earth. Running mode, automatic. Rate of absorption, 80%. Gravity core status, 16%, progressing. 5.5%/month. Core formless. Mana power 700. Mana capacity 700. Talent, top bottom, upgradable. Color pale orange. Strength 47. Speed 46. Stamina 48. Vitality 89. Intelligence 42. Soul power 46. Constitution 40. Mental power 50. Spells 3. 1. Gravity field 2. Gravity push 3. Gravity pull. Slots filled 3. In front of me was a large status panel. Then my attention was drawn to the attributes. A bright smile spread across my face as I realized my core limit had increased by 3%. Finally, I have the strength to compete with my class's elite wizards. But unfortunately, I won't be able to increase my limit any further today. I can only do it again the next time. But I have a hunch that after using the magic material provided by Mr. John Myers, my gravity magic will undergo significant changes. Then I focused on mental strength. As I had previously assumed, mental power did not exceed 50. It remained, but the excess power was transferred to soul attributes. It's no surprise that I noticed significant changes in my body. My soul power has increased dramatically. I decided to use the magical material after gaining some clarity in my thoughts. The mana chamber is still operational. I'm going to stay in this chamber for another 2 hours. Then I take the metal box from my bracelet storage. I discovered the storage artifact after removing the cover. Mr. John Myers had texted me earlier about how to use this thing. I just need to use my mental strength to open it. In 0v3 LTR 0v served as the original host for this chapter's release on NOV3 LB1N. Then I took the storage artifact out and held it in my hand. Slowly, my consciousness seeped into it, then the next second. Click. When I opened the storage artifact, I saw the magical material. My eyes widened in disbelief the next second. I felt an instant craving from the mana core inside my body. This sensation surprised me greatly. I'd never felt anything like this before. It's even more powerful than the super relic I used to improve my talent previously. I examined the magical material after my heart had calmed down. It's a crystallized meteorite, and it transports me back in time, where I first discovered my talent after discovering a similar meteor rock. I'm not sure whether to laugh or cry as I realized this. I have an affinity for meteors. I then retracted my thoughts and looked at the meteor rock. The meteor rock has a deep gray color texture over it, and it is also crystallized. While I'm watching, I notice that my cravings are becoming more intense. System, probe the material, I said to the system. Ding. The host's command is recognized. Ding. Unknown material detected. Ding. The system version is low. Result. Unable to analyze the material. When I saw the status panel, a glint flashed into my eyes. This was something I should have expected. This magical material has many times the power of a super relic. It appears that I will have to wait for the next version. I'm not sure what this meteor will do to me. After that, I decided to absorb the material in order to dispel the thoughts. In my hand was a crystallized meteor rock. The craving sensation overtook me the next second. I started using the gravity arc mental method right away. The energy of a deep gray color entered my body. My core began to move the next moment. I have no doubt that this meteor is connected to my gravity magic. I used the mental method to circulate the energy. However, things changed when the deep gray energy entered my mana core. My entire mana core started vibrating. I was breaking out in cold sweat. I'm not sure if it's good or bad, but I didn't stop the process. I kept running the mental method. However, visible changes occurred within the mana core. The pale gray mist is now completely transformed into a deep color. Not only is that, but the entire mana space is gradually being strengthened. Small runic inscriptions can be seen on the walls of mana core's space if one looks closely. The entire area has been transformed into a sacred space for gravity magic. As the deep gray color energy continued to fill the mana space, the deep golden color runic inscriptions continued to glow brightly. At the same time, the deep gray color energy influenced the constitution. The physique is rapidly changing, ensuring that gravity mana circulation is more efficient than it was previously. Outside, I concentrated all of my efforts on running the mental method. I'm not sure what happened inside of me. However, I am experiencing a strong sensation in my mana core region. Time passed. The crystallized blue meteor turned to powder after 2 hours. I absorbed all of the power contained in that meteor. I'm not sure what kind of power that is, but I have a sneaking suspicion that my strength has significantly improved. I feel like slamming someone right now. Seeing that, there is no more meteor rock. I decided to conduct an internal check. Numerous changes can be seen as I began to observe. It's no longer a typical human body. My exoskeleton appeared to be much stronger than before. It was bolstered by the force of meteor rock. The density of bones increased by leaps and bounds as a result. I'm not sure how to quantify it precisely, but I have a strong feeling that I can defeat any first-order monster simply by virtue of my physical strength. After inspecting my bones, I examined my organs and veins. My physique improved dramatically as expected. Veins, meridians, and blood vessels were completely altered. I believe the physique is now more in line with gravity. In the next split second, I had a terrifying realization. I need to double-check my status panel. System, show my status panel, I said to the system. Ding! The host command is recognized. Ding! Level up system. Status panel. Host's name, Vincent Carey. Magic power, gravity. Mage level 1 limiter. 1.5 years remain to level up. Mental method, gravity arc, running. Grade, earth. Running mode, automatic. Rate of absorption, 80%. Gravity core status, 41%, progressing. 5.5%/month. Type, sacred core formless. Mana power, 700. Mana capacity, 700. Talent, top bottom, upgradable. Color pale orange. Strength, 72. Speed, 71. Stamina, 74. The inaugural upload of this chapter took place via N0V3LB1N. Vitality, 100. Limit has been reached. Intelligence, 50. Limit has been reached. Soul power, 50. Limit has been reached. Constitution, 50. Limit has been reached. Sacred gravité physique, 1%. Mental power, 50. Limit has been reached. Spells, 3. 1. Gravity field, 2. Gravity push, 3. Gravity pull. Slots filled, 3. In front of my eyes was a large status panel. I exclaimed joyfully. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My status panel appeared surreal. I didn't even look at the status panel for a second. I relished the sensation for a while before calming my heart. Then my attention was drawn to the attributes. My pupil constricts as I see my core name. It has now been transformed from a normal core to a sacred core. Sacred core, I wrinkled my brows. Then I decided to examine my mana core. When I first noticed the mana core in my body, I noticed a completely new mana core. It took me a few seconds to process the information. It's true, the mana core has been altered, I stated. The mana core area appeared to be more powerful than ever. The space inside the mana core appeared sacred, much like the name in the status panel. This energy makes me feel noble. Not only that, but the gray color mist has darkened. The core wall is also golden in color. Perceiving all of these new upgrades caused a wide smile to spread across my face. Now I understand why I had such a strong desire earlier. After retracing my thoughts, I returned my attention to the status panel. The core has been expanded by 25%. It's a huge step forward. I must say, the crystallized blue meteorite is impressive. It is, in some ways, greater than 5 elemental crystal gems. That super relic only boosted my talent level. However, this meteorite significantly increased my strength. My eyes then swept away other characteristics. As a result, all other attributes except strength, speed, and stamina approached the limit. I breathed a sigh of relief. I can now easily defeat Victoria Shields, the third-ranking wizard in our class. My eyes widened as I realized my strength easily ranks among the top 3. Danny Quinn and Brent Dale, I'm not sure what level these two have reached. I haven't seen their status panel yet. So a glimmer of curiosity appeared in my heart. Then I noticed something under the heading Constitution. I muttered, Sacred Gravity Physique. My breathing has become much faster since I realized something. In the wizardry path, normally, as one advances from one level to the next, the human body undergoes numerous changes. As they progress through the levels, high-rank elemental wizards transform their bodies into elemental ones. This information was obtained in our history class. However, my gravity magic differs from elemental ones. There is no clear path ahead because it is a sub-taboo one. However, after viewing the status panel again, I have no doubt that my body will transform into an elemental constitution. The name sounds intriguing, the Sacred Gravity Physique. I sighed in relief after double-checking everything. If I keep practicing inside the mana chamber, I'll be a level 2 wizard in a few months. Level 2? As I considered this, my eyes twinkled with delight. I used one of the gravity spells after removing the status panel. Gravity field, I said. The entire mana chamber began to shake when the gravitational field appeared. Buzz. Inside the chamber, a loud alarm bell began to ring. When I heard that, I immediately removed the spell. The gravity field vanished in the next second as if by magic. The alarm was also deactivated. When I saw that, I exhaled a sigh of relief. I nearly broke out in cold sweat. Outside. Damn. What occurred? The notification was immediately received by the office staff. He went to investigate the situation after receiving the emergency notification. He recognized the emergency call as coming from the single mana chamber. He arrived in front of that specific mana chamber. He noticed that the alarm had gone off. Everything returned to normal without incident. For a brief moment, he was perplexed, but only after ensuring that there is no problem. He returned to his original location. Inside, it took me some time to realize that not only mana core and physique, my gravity spells have been modified. For a brief moment, I was careless. I hadn't considered it before. Then I made the decision to leave right away. Time passed. After 3 hours, I arrived in the wilderness. I'm currently standing on the dividing line, waiting for the monsters. But I have yet to come across one. After a few more minutes of waiting, I finally saw the monster appear. I discovered it's a first-order monster, wild boar, after using the probe function. System, probe the target's detail. Ding. The host's command is recognized. Ding. The host command is executed. Status panel. Target's name. Wild boar, mid-first order. Strength, 45. Vitality, 41. Speed, 39. Stamina, 37. Ability/skill, wild dash. When I saw the status panel, I cracked a small smile. This is an unusually high level for a wild boar. The half-order wild boars are usually in large numbers. This one, on the other hand, is a first-order monster with mid-level strength. It was no surprise that it was circling the dividing line. Then I noticed the monster moving towards the interior. I give chase in the blink of an eye. I suddenly appeared in front of the monster. The monster began to flee after seeing me. Gravity field, I said. When I cast the spell, a terrible pressure appeared. Puff. The wild boar, on the other hand, turned into mincemeat in the blink of an eye. Even before the gravity field was fully formed. It's because my spell was never finished. How is the situation? I grumbled to myself. The monster was reduced to mush by a tiny amount of gravity pressure. I recall the first time I used the gravity spell. The starting pressure was slightly more than 500 kilograms, and it will continue to rise as long as I keep the gravitational field in place. Today, however, is a different story. The pressure must have multiplied many times over. How can I be sure? For a brief moment, I was lost in thought. Then I noticed a massive mountain rock ahead of me. Considering the size of the mountain rock, which is twice my size, I did a quick calculation. This mountain rock must weigh more than 25,000 kilograms. So, based on cracks, I can estimate the new pressure level after casting the spell. I dashed towards the mountain rock after gaining some clarity. I arrived at the location in a few breaths. I examined my surroundings before beginning my experiment. I don't want to see hunters appear out of nowhere like they did last time. I looked at the massive single mountain rock in front of me after making sure there was no one else there. Gravity field, I said. A terrifying pressure suddenly appeared out of nowhere. The gravitational force was immediately focused on single mountain rock. When I saw that, a small hope rose in my heart. I'm hoping to see a significant visible crack. However, once the gravitational field is fully formed, the massive mountain rock started to crumble. From a single crack to several cracks. The massive mountain rock began to break in the blink of an eye. The entire rocks crumble into smaller stones in a matter of seconds. The entire procedure took only a few seconds. I stood in the same spot as the statue after witnessing the entire process. I couldn't believe it. It took some time to process. I discovered that gravitational pressure is stronger than I thought. It weighs more than 25,000 kilograms. Then I decided to go and find a larger mountain rock than this one. That requires me to venture into hilly terrain. I spotted a large mountain rock after more than 2 hours. Seeing the massive mountain rock that is twice as big as the previous one, I decided to try it again. Gravity field, I said. When I cast the spell, a similar dreadful pressure descended. The massive mountain rock began to vibrate. A few seconds later, small cracks appeared. Seeing this, I increased my pressure. After a few minutes, the cracks begin to multiply. However, the massive mountain rock remains intact. After 5 minutes, the massive mountain rock began to crumble. A few seconds later, it pulverized. When I saw the pulverized stones, I began to evaluate. The pressure could be as high as 50,000 kilograms. Thinking about this number seems surreal. But after seeing the evidence, I realized it's partially true. A terrible realization struck me. I should be more cautious in the future. Because if I used my gravity spell on any level 1 wizard, he'd turn into mincemeat. Even powerful wizards will struggle to survive under my spell. On the one hand, I'm grateful for the promotion. But I still have a nagging feeling in my heart that I shouldn't be exposed in front of others. I'll have to be more cautious, especially during combat class. But there is a solution to this problem. I will have better control over the gravitational field if I improve my spelling proficiency. I decided to hunt more monsters after gaining some clarity in my thoughts. After deciding on a destination, a wide smile spread across my face this time. Time passed. I arrived in the vast plains area a few hours later. I couldn't explore the areas last time because of powerful wizards. But this time I'm pretty confident in my ability to fight level 2 monsters. I came across the powerful monster after venturing into the vast plains. From afar, I saw a massive head. Seeing that, I decided to investigate. System, probe the target's detail. Ding! The host's command is recognized. Ding! The host command is executed. Status panel. Target's name, Wildcat, early 2nd order. Strength, 112. Vitality, 114. Speed, 0.116. Stamina, 115. Ability/skill, Metal Claw. In front of my eyes was a large status panel. When I realized it was a 2nd order monster, a quick glint flashed into my eyes. I became hesitant for a brief moment. I understand the reasoning. I hadn't fought that many top-tier monsters. Now I'm going to confront the 2nd order monster. It will be a novel experience. Then my gaze was drawn to the monster. That wildcat is busy devouring its prey's carcass. But I have a sneaking suspicion that it has already spotted me. Then a thought occurred to me. I'm only a low-level wizard, and other than my gravity spells, nothing can harm the monster. The wildcat's attributes were superior to mine. The massive wildcat, on the other hand, is already aware of the presence of humans. After sniffing, the monster realized that the human posed no threat. It has the ability to kill humans at any time. So the wildcat kept eating the meat, unconcerned about the frail human. Simultaneously, step by step, I took a step closer to the monster. I didn't even use any of my magic. The wildcat's speed is faster than mine. So I don't want to be caught off guard. The massive wildcat raised its head to see me as I approached. The 2nd order monster was enraged this time. It was annoying that I was interrupting its meal. Aroyarr. When I took another step toward the monster, it let out a huge roar. Hearing that, I became concerned. My instincts were screaming at me to be cautious. I decided to cast a spell out of instinct. Gravity field, I said. The next thing I knew, the wildcat had vanished from its hiding place. As a result, I focused on controlling the gravitational field. A tremendous force descended unexpectedly. It was already getting closer when I saw the silhouette of the wildcat. It's only a few steps away from where I am. After witnessing such a terrifying speed, I sucked a cold breath. But I quickly calmed down my heart. I don't want the spell to vanish. Luckily, when the wildcat raised its massive claw against me, the terrifying pressure fell on the monster. Thud. The monster was crushed and fell to the ground. I saw another scene before I realized it. Puff. The wildcat's head shattered like a watermelon. A cold shiver ran down my spine as I witnessed such a horrific scene. As expected, I should exercise caution when using the gravity spell again. This chapter was first shared on the NOVROLSS1 platform. The 2nd order monster died unaware of what had occurred. I retracted my thoughts from the shock in the next second. And I took a look around the room. I'm on the lookout for a crystal gem. I'm hoping it wasn't destroyed by gravitational pressure earlier. After a few seconds of searching, I decided to call it a day. I realized the crystal gem had been destroyed. Sigh. I decided to hunt a few more monsters before returning home. Time passed. I spent a few more hours wandering around the perimeter. I occasionally came across a 2nd order monster. Unfortunately, I was unable to obtain the crystal gems. The gravitational pressure was so strong that it turned monsters into scum in seconds. I'm now ready to take on the 2nd order monster. At the same time, I keep an eye on my surroundings. I'm still a level 1 wizard and I don't want the monster to surprise me. I left the vast plains when it was dawn. I didn't come across any hunters or monsters on my way back. This saved me a significant amount of time. I arrived in Vinen City after a few hours. I have a few items for sale. However, I will not do so today. I chose to return home first. I informed the driver of my destination after boarding the air car. The air car rose from the ground and flew towards my house in a matter of seconds. After 2 hours, the air car landed directly in front of my house. I got out of the car and walked toward the gate after paying the fee. It's getting late. I hope everyone is sleeping. I entered the house after opening the door. Then I noticed that no one was waiting for me. When I realized this, I breathed a sigh of relief. I then returned to my room after closing the door. Time passed. The following morning, after breakfast, I left the house. I'm not sure why. Instead of being pleased with my progress, my disposition is a little sour. I feel like I'm walking on a tightrope. I arrived at the school 20 minutes later. The students and faculty were going inside as usual. No one paid attention to my side. But I know what would happen if I stayed here. Soon, there will be a commotion. Then I went inside without informing anyone. Rather than going to class, I'm going to the waiting room. I sent Lucas a text message on the way. I continued walking after sending the message. Then, all of a sudden, my eyes twinkled. I noticed a new structure ahead. It is close to the administrative building. Then I had a flash of insight. Fatty had previously informed me of the new rumor. The administration intends to create a new class for special wizards or unique magic users. I realized the reason with a quick glint in my eye. I'm not sure how many wizards will sign up for this class, because unique magic users are uncommon in our school. Then I remembered what happened during the Star Battle platform battle. Glass body, I murmured to myself. Perhaps she will enroll in this new class. Interesting. It is the chairman's responsibility. Then, after shaking off the thoughts, I proceeded to the waiting area. Then I found an open spot to sit. Time passed. A few minutes later, I noticed Lucas Brad approaching me. When I saw that, I cracked a small smile. He has recovered completely from his injuries. I also believe his temperament has shifted slightly. Brother Vincent, you're finally back, Lucas Brad smiled. His heart skips a beat as he walks a little closer. Brother Vincent has grown much stronger than before, Lucas reflected. He's not sure how exactly, but his instincts have never let him down. I, on the other hand, smiled and inquired, do you know anything about the unique magic users? When Lucas heard this, he nodded and replied, I'm not familiar with the names. However, I had heard that 10 people had enrolled in the new class. 10 people? I exclaimed, surprised. This figure is much higher than I had anticipated. Little Stargate Senior High School. A one class. While Vincent and Lucas were conversing in the school's waiting area, the elite students have already begun to make noise in class. Everyone is talking about Vincent Carey these days. He'll arrive today after being suspended for a few days, while the majority of them were gossiping. However, some people took it seriously, because being suspended is no laughing matter. Frank Lambert is the 4th rank wizard in particular. Students are now entering the classroom one by one. When Frank Lambert walked in, he overheard some of their conversations. When he realized the important news, a cold glint flashed into his eyes. Vincent Carey will be back today, he told himself. They happen to have a combat class today. When he thinks about it, he gets a big smile on his face. He now has the opportunity to determine whether or not the rumors that were spreading were true. The fight between Vincent Carey and Easton Brown is still talked about. Easton Brown is an 11th rank wizard. If someone in a similar range can challenge them, the truth will be revealed. Frank sat back in his seat and thought for a while. Furthermore, Matthew Hunk was already waiting for him to speak. But seeing Frank's thoughtful expression, he decided not to bother him. Matthew, on the other hand, is concerned. He is also paying attention to the conversation. He believes Frank will devise a new strategy against Vincent Carey. He was startled to see Frank open his eyes. He appears to make decisions. In fear, Matthew gulped some saliva. Frank, on the other hand, considered a serious issue. It's ridiculous to expect wizards outside of the top 10 to challenge Vincent. And he knows that combat instructor Freeman will not allow it. He also knows that the 12th and 13th rank wizards were both female. Both are Victoria Shield's close friends. They won't shoot unless Victoria requests it. Frank is unsure how to pit other top 10 wizards against Vincent after careful consideration. He didn't feel bad about it, though. Frank is aware that there will be opportunities in the future. We lingered in the waiting area for a few more minutes after discussing the new special class. There is something that cannot be discussed openly in the classroom. So the front office building's waiting area serves as a meeting place for us. We soon found ourselves in front of the A-rank building. Students from other A-rank divisions began to recognize me at this point. Brother, some people don't think Easton Brown was defeated, Lucas Brad said quietly. He had previously discussed the subject. But he thinks it's a good time to remind Vincent. When I remembered him, my eyes twinkled. Easton isn't here today, which is a good thing. I don't want to go to battle with him. Even a single wisp of my spell's pressure can turn him into mincemeat. I will refrain from using the spell within the class until I have improved my control, particularly during the combat class. I remained silent instead of responding. After a few minutes, we arrived at our classroom. Many eyes were drawn to me as I entered the classroom. It was much more intense this time. Everyone seems to be curious about my strength. Lucas, on the other hand, is astounded. He gulped his saliva as he noticed everyone starting with the two of them. I then walked towards our seat, not paying attention to their stare. I was immediately bombarded with questions after we both sat in our seats. People who don't usually talk to me are already inquiring about the rumors. Do you beat Easton, Vincent? One of my classmates inquired. When I heard that, I looked him in the eyes. This guy usually keeps his distance from me. He is now willingly asking so many questions. There was no fight, I lied, shaking my head. My voice was not loud enough, but everyone heard it. Gasp. I had this feeling before. All of these rumors. Damn, for a split second. I assumed Vincent was joking. Ha, ha ha, so it was not true. Easton is a wizard of the 11th rank. His power is no laughing matter. Students began to gossip once more. Everyone eventually realized that it was all rumors. And it is completely false. I wrinkled my brows when I heard people laughing about it. Everyone would have continued to inquire about this if I hadn't put an end to it. I shook my head as I considered the gravity spell. I have no idea what would happen. If I were to cast a spell right now, everyone will be reduced to blood paste. After a few moments, everyone, including the top 10 wizards, entered the classroom. When I saw Brentdale and Danny Quinn, my eyes twinkled. These two appeared to be friends. In my heart, a spark of curiosity arose. I considered inquiring about their specifics. But then I felt a cold stare from the other side. I turned my head in that direction after noticing it. It turned out to be none other than Frank Lambert. Inside, I laughed. I would have been hesitant if it had happened earlier. But I'm all right now. Even Brentdale and Danny Quinn can't beat me. He continued to stare at me after that. I replied with a wide grin on my face. For a brief moment, he was stunned. Then, shaking my head, I resumed my normal routine. After a few seconds, class teacher Eric entered the room. I looked at him when I noticed this. But the first thing he did was look around the students before settling on me. He paused for a moment before withdrawing his gaze. Then he started giving lectures. As usual, the classes were tedious. However, for the wizardry path, extensive knowledge is required. Time passed. Every class went off without a hitch. Until the class ended just before lunch. I was hoping for a drama to happen. But, surprisingly, nothing happened. There is no problem with that. We both exited the classroom and made our way to our special cafeteria. On the way, I noticed other students' stares. They were taken aback by my appearance. But that was it. None of them came forward to ask any questions. Brother Sai, what about the fighting class? Lucas Brad inquired. When I heard that, I smiled and said, as usual, we must defeat the challenger. According to Lucas Brad, I believe you will be challenged later. Me? I was taken aback. Lucas Brad gave a nod. Now that you've clarified, everyone will think you're weak. Lucas was hesitant when he said that. Vincent exerted considerable pressure on him. It was nothing like before, and he also knows his brother lied to everyone. But he had no idea why. On the other hand, seeing that Fatty is overly concerned, I'm not sure whether to laugh or cry. My strength is not what it used to be. The problem is that I can't say it to him directly. I responded, don't be concerned. I'll come up with something. When we arrived in front of the lift, there was already a group of people waiting. The rest of the students, based on the group, did not cause any problems. They walked downstairs politely. Victoria Shields and her two female friends make up the group. Lucas Brad was terrified. Brother Vincent, we can use the stairs, he said right away. I didn't even pay attention to his words because my gaze was drawn to Victoria Shields. When I saw her, I considered investigating her statistics. Ding! The host's command is recognized. Ding. Level up system. Status panel. Target's name, Victoria Shields. Magic power, attack weapon. Cold Ice Sword. Mage level 1 limiter. Weapon core status, 86%. Mana power, 400/600. Talent, middle top. Color deep green. Strength, 65. Speed, 60. Stamina, 68. Vitality, 69. Intelligence, 50. Soul power, 50. This chapter made its debut appearance via B1NN0V3L. Constitution 50. Mental power, 50. Mental method, Ice Sword style, Earth grade. Spells, 2. 1. Ice/2. Sword freeze. In front of my eyes was a large status panel. When I noticed this, my attention was drawn to her current statistics. When I saw her dramatic improvement, I twitched. In most of her attributes, she has already reached her limit. It will only be a matter of time before she reaches her breaking point. Then I noticed some significant changes, particularly because her core formation rate is faster than her attribute progression rate. Fortunately, I came across some hidden gems. The blue crystallized meteor, in particular, had greatly increased my power. As a result, I'm not afraid of her. Some students, on the other hand, were taken aback. They noticed two people standing near the lift who was not scared of Victoria Shields. This situation immediately drew the attention of others. A minor commotion immediately erupted. Many of them came to a complete stop. They're curious about what will happen next. When Victoria noticed Vincent Carey's presence, her eyes twinkled. Little Stargate High School. Victoria fixed her gaze on him. She has no idea why. Vincent Carey, the newcomer, appears to be different today. Her instincts have never been wrong. So she is certain that something has changed in Vincent Carey. The roots of this story extend from novel being origin. The other party wants to use the lift. After realizing this, Victoria took a step back to make room. This was her first time doing something like this. Perhaps because her interest in Vincent Carey was piqued. Her two female companions also step away for them to enter the lift together. Lucas Brad, on the other hand, widened his eyes in disbelief. He had anticipated something else, but not this case at all. Victoria's humble gesture astounded him. She is not the usual cold queen he has encountered before. Her behavior is unusual. So Lucas thinks that he should still take the stairs instead of standing here. Brother, Lucas said. The lift door unexpectedly opened. Victoria Shields and her two companions entered. Seeing this, I decided to follow them. Lucas Brad has no choice but to come with me. We quickly entered the lift. We were standing next to Victoria and her friends. When the lift began, none of them asked questions or struck up a casual conversation. I have the impression that the third-rank wizard is not particularly chatty. You must muster some courage before approaching her as an equal. Victoria is an ice swordsman wizard. I want to have a duel with her in future. I hope that day comes sooner rather than later. The door opened when the lift reached the first floor. Victoria and her friends exited the lift right away. Sigh. At the same time, I heard Lucas Brad sigh. When I heard that, I cracked a small smile. Fatty is scared. Then we both exited and made our way to the A1 cafeteria. Time passed. We arrived at class after eating lunch. Following the potion class is the combat class. I'm not sure what will happen at that point. The potion class went off without a hitch. We've been taught the fundamentals of potion making. For the time being, I'd like to learn about higher level potions. Specifically, the information on level -2 potions. But I know it's not on our curriculum. If I want to learn more about it, I can only do so online or through private tutoring. When the classes were finished, the teacher exited the room. Following that, a small exclamation was heard. My classmates are excited about the combat class. Some of them had already begun to place bets. When I saw that, I shook my head in disappointment and walked out of the class with Fatty. The fourth-rank wizard Frank Lambert, on the other hand, noticed Vincent walking out. A wicked grin spread across his face. He'd already devised a heinous plan in his head. He decided to take the initiative in order for this plan to succeed. The next second, one by one, students began to leave the classroom. The top 10 elite wizards are also drawn to the combat class. Nobody knows what will happen next, but there is a sense of anticipation among the students. The combat class. After a few moments, combat instructor Freeman entered the room. His gaze was drawn immediately to the students gathered around the battle platform. He nodded his head in appreciation as he noticed that everyone was present. Suddenly, a blue silhouette caught his eye. Vincent Carey was also present. When he saw that kid, He quickly realized that his suspension period had come to an end. Then flashed before his eyes images of Eric Wallace. He recalled Eric's words. He stated that Vincent Carey easily defeated Easton Brown outside of the school grounds. His lips formed an arc. He is excited to see Vincent's strength at this time. Freeman believes that someone will eventually challenge that brat. Then he averted his gaze from Vincent and looked around the room. Okay, I won't waste any more time. Today's combat class will be the same as usual, Freeman said. Then he went on to say more. It's a ranking competition. Anyone who wishes to issue a challenge may do so first. He looked around the room after saying that. There isn't anything else to say. Because the students were already accustomed to the routine. The challenge was quickly issued. It was completed by the lowest ranking wizard. He challenges a wizard student who is ranked higher than him. The fight began immediately after the battle stage was covered with a silver dome screen. Time passed. 6 challenge duels were held in quick succession over the course of an hour. However, all of those battles for the bottom ranks. Nobody from the top 10 wizards showed up. In displeasure, Freeman wrinkled his brows. Because only the bottom and middle ranks change every time during the combat class. However, the top 10 rankings remained unchanged from a month ago. Nobody among the top 10 wizards is willing to take on another. They did not fool Freeman. He is aware that the top 10 wizard students have superior talent and backgrounds. As a result, their rate of growth cannot be described in words. Despite this progress, no one is willing to step up and advance their position. Freeman is dissatisfied with the way things are going. He would like to see some changes in the top 10 rankings. But it's unavoidable. He can't make someone do it. Sigh. He let out a deep sigh as he realized what had happened. Today's class will conclude in the same manner as usual. He looked around, retracing his thoughts. He's curious to see who comes up next. After a few minutes, a hint of disappointment appeared in his eyes. Then he decided to call a halt to the ranking duel and instead guide everyone individually. When he raised his head to stop the duel, a silhouette appeared on the combat stage. Gasp. After seeing the person's appearance, a loud exclamation is heard. Frank Lambert, the 4th rank wizard, entered the stage. Ha, Frank Lambert. What is he up to? Will he challenge Victoria again? Wow, we're going to see the top 3 duels again. Students began to express themselves one by one. The already calm atmosphere abruptly began to boil. Matthew Hunk, on the other hand, was taken aback. He had expected Frank to take action. But he never expected this to happen. Will he challenge Vincent Carey? He reflected to himself. No way, he finds it absurd. But he has no idea what plan Frank has in mind. He had some expectations for the duel stage. Apart from the top 3 wizards, Matthew knows no one can harm Frank. Combat instructor Freeman, on the other hand, was taken aback by Frank's actions. The fight between him and Victoria took place a few weeks ago. As a result, Freeman is taken aback by Frank's initiative. He has no idea if Frank has improved or not. Before he could ask Frank, his gaze was drawn to Victoria Shields, a 3rd rank wizard. Not only the combat instructor, but the entire class is staring at her. This duel has piqued everyone's interest. Victoria, on the other hand, has different ideas. What is this clown doing? She grumbled to herself. She, like everyone else, concluded that Frank would challenge her again. When she decided to walk, a sentence from Frank stunned everyone. Wait, Frank said. I'm not going to challenge her. Victoria came to a halt and looked at the stage. Everyone has been perplexed by Frank's actions. Combat instructor Freeman, in particular, wishes to beat the opposing party. But he kept his cool and asked, Frank, what are you doing now? Frank was not offended when he heard the deep voice. Instead, he looked around the crowd. Teacher, Frank Lambert explained, I decided to have a friendly sparring session with my classmates. After saying that, his gaze was drawn involuntarily to Vincent Carey. He had previously proposed a sparring match. Typically, the top 10 wizards, including him, are arrogant and cold. They are never attentive to their classmates. But this time, it's Vincent Carey. He has no choice but to carry out this plan. This? A twinkle twinkled in Freeman's eyes. What exactly is he hearing? It's difficult for him to believe his ears. This individual wishes to assist others. Gasp. Another small exclamation is heard. Everyone thought Frank was making fun of them this time. Everyone is aware of the top 10 wizards' true attitudes. They are the elite of the elite. The top 5 in particular are far too powerful. It appears impossible to gain combat experience from them. But Frank is about to do just that. Some students responded positively. Frank's friends and supporters in particular. Others regarded him with suspicion. The other top 10 elite wizards were dissatisfied with Frank's words. Because if he does that, everyone else will follow suit in the future. Even Victoria Shield senses something is wrong. She has a good sense of everyone's personality. She is also aware of Frank Lambert. That's why she thought it was strange. Little Stargate High School. Combat class. After hearing from Frank, I laughed quietly to myself. This guy's ultimate goal is to harm me. But in order to deal with me, he devised such a scheme. Everyone is probably thinking he's bluffing. But I have a feeling he'll just do what he says. When it comes time for me to spar, this guy is going to show his fangs. How am I going to proceed? Do I have to show my magic? Lucas Brad muttered something to himself. When I heard that, a wide smile spread across my face. Then I realized that everyone has a problem. Particularly when it comes to Lucas. I've never seen him perform his magic before. He had defeated his opponent the previous time without using magic. Lucas, you're thinking too much, I chuckled. What's up, brother? Lucas Brad's response was embarrassing. He almost ignores the person standing next to him. He is well aware that his problem is in no way comparable to that of his brother Vincent. After seeing the fatty's expression, I let out a small laugh. I then retracted my thoughts and returned my attention to the duel stage. Frank Lambert was unsettled. Even though he spoke clearly, people do not believe him. Then his gaze was drawn to the other top 10 elite wizards. He sneered inside after seeing their displeasure. Losers. Frank doesn't care about their opinions except for the top 3 wizards above him. He is well aware that they are unconcerned about his actions. Then, turning to face the combat instructor, he said, I'm serious about this, instructor. It's fine if no one wants to gain any experience. After saying that, he turned to face the wizard students, arms crossed. Freeman, the combat instructor, finally lowers his brows. He realizes that Frank is serious and not joking. Freeman thought it would be interesting to watch a sparring match. Then he turned to the wizard students and said quietly, okay, if anyone wants to have a friendly spar with Frank, please step forward. His words were heard by everyone. Are you going, Brother Vincent? Lucas Brad inquired about the person sitting next to him. My eyes twinkled with delight when I heard that. System, probe the details of Frank Lambert, I said to the system. Ding. The host's command is recognized. Ding. Level up system. Status panel. Target's name, Frank Lambert. Magic power, attack weapon. Silver Tiger Spear. Mage level 1 limiter. Weapon core status, 75%. Mana power, 600/600. Talent, middle top. Color deep green. Strength, 51. Speed, 54. Stamina, -52. Vitality, 50. Intelligence, 43. Soul power, 42. Constitution, 45. Mental power, 46. Mental method, Tiger Spear Art, Earth grade. Spells, 2. 1. Tiger's Roar 2. Spear Break. In front of my eyes was a large status panel. My attention was drawn immediately to the attributes. My lips curved into a gentle arc after seeing the statistics. To think that Victoria is such a vast improvement over Frank. I believe she might had the same opportunity as I did. I can't think of anything other than powerful relics. While I believe Frank is progressing normally, then I noticed Frank's arrogant posture. I turned around to see if anyone was willing to step forward. Even if it's a friendly spar, I doubt Frank will be gentle. He'll use some of his power. That's probably why people were hesitant to go up. A1 class doesn't deserve cowards like you, Frank Lambert said angrily. When he was finished speaking, the room fell silent. Nobody expected him to say something like that. Way too much. Damn, if I had the strength, I'd be this M***** or down. Frank is going too far. The bottom-ranked wizard's expression darkened. In a rage, some of them gnashed their teeth. Others were completely helpless. They are, without a doubt, weak. Few chose to suffer the humiliation. Similarly, people had a wide range of reactions. Even some of the top 10 felt there was something wrong with Frank. I laughed quietly to myself. Frank's strategy could work. Because the combat instructor made no objections. That is, he also supports his means. A silhouette jumped onto the duel stage and took a position opposite Frank. Gasp. Everyone exclaimed when they recognized the individual. Because that person is not at the bottom of the list. Even I am taken aback by his appearance. Max Cooper is the 9th rank fire elemental wizard. He has a muscular build and tan skin. His hair and eyes were both browns. He stands 5.9 feet tall. He appears to be an elite-level wizard based on his appearance. But I doubt the duel will be a friendly duel any longer. System, probe the details of Max Cooper, I said to the system. Ding. The host's command is recognized. Ding. Level up system. Status panel. Target's name, Max Cooper. Magic power fire element. Mage level 1 limiter. Weapon core status 37%. Mana power 400/600. Talent middle top. Color deep green. Strength 35. Speed 36. Stamina 34. Vitality 35. Intelligence 37. Soul power 35. Constitution 36. Mental power 37. Mental method flame method advanced grade. Spells 2. 1. Flame balls 2. Flame wall. In front of my eyes was a large status panel. However, after reviewing the statistics, I wrinkled my brow. He appears to be weaker than Liam Baker. However, he is still ranked 9th. L1 Terrorihop hosted the first appearance of this chapter at N0vel.B1N. Then I realized what was wrong. The top 10 positions had never changed significantly, because there had not been many ranking duels between the top 10 wizards. The top 10 wizards rarely challenged each other. This demonstrates that they were at ease in their situation. So, with the exception of the top 3, the current ranking of the top 10 wizards may not be accurate. Everyone's attention was drawn to the sudden change in circumstances. Freeman, the combat instructor, is torn between laughing and crying. He had hoped for something like this to happen earlier. Max, what are you going to do? He asked, looking at Max. Freeman understands that this is not a ranking contest, but he still wants to be certain. Max politely responded to the combat instructor's words. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to learn from Brother Frank, instructor. So I won't be missing it. Is it a friendly spar? Freeman inquired. Max responded with a nod. He is not a moron for challenging Frank Lambert. He is aware of his limitations. His strength is nowhere near that of Frank. Frank, on the other hand, twitched. He is not expecting anyone from the top 10 to show up. It's counterproductive to his plan. Recognizing that, his face had darkened. The image of a specific person flashed before his eyes. Then his gaze was drawn to Vincent Carey. Frank's heart boiled with rage as he noticed a smirk from Vincent. In front of that person, his actions became ridiculous. A cold glint flashed into Frank's eyes as he turned to face Max Cooper. A strong determination rose in his heart. He will not let anyone ruin his plan. When the duel began, a silver color screen encircled the duel stage like a dome cage. Inside, don't forget, it's a friendly spar, the combat instructor reminded him. The light in his eyes had been dimmed slightly. But Frank was dead set on ending this match with a single blow. Max Cooper's unexpected appearance irritated him. He felt he had become a joke in front of Vincent's eyes, especially after seeing his smirk. His blood was boiling with rage. Frank used his magical power before Max realized it. In his hands is a bright silver spear. It appeared in an instant. Then he raised his spear against Max and dashed at full speed toward him. Tiger's roar, Frank said. He cast the magic spell while moving. Frank could feel the power of the spell rising from his spear. The next second, he hurled the spear at his opponent, Max Cooper, who stood dumbfounded. Frank only used half of the spell's power. However, it was sufficient to defeat the opponent. Max, on the other hand, awoke from a coma after realizing the threat. He immediately cast the self-defense spell. Flame wall, Max said. In the next second, a fire wall formed in front of him in an instant. Max continued to pour his mana frantically. However, it was too late. In the next second, Frank's spear strikes the flame wall. The devastating blow destroyed the opponent's defensive spell. Tiger's roar, Frank's attack spell was activated. When the tip of the spear made contact with the flame wall, it made a roaring sound. Boom! The flame wall disintegrated. Max's defensive spell couldn't keep the spear in place. Max was thrown away like a broken kite by the impact and crashed into the silver cage. Max passed out on the spot the next second. The duel ended in the blink of an eye. Outside, everyone was taken aback by the outcome. The atmosphere became deafeningly quiet. No one dared to open their mouth at this time. The air was deafeningly quiet. No one expected Frank to act in this manner. He has gone above and beyond his own words and cast a powerful attack spell on Max Cooper. I sighed inwardly as I witnessed Max's unconscious state. I'm not sure whether to call him a fool. Max had made a mistake in his judgment. I knew Frank wasn't going to keep his hand. Frank had lost his cool, especially after seeing someone from the top 10 ranks competing against him. Cruel, muttered Lucas Brad beside me. You dare? The thunderous voice reverberated throughout the area the next second. I moved my gaze to the combat instructor. He was completely enraged. When the silver screen was removed, I saw him dispelling it. He dashed toward Max, who was unconscious. Then I noticed him examining Max's body. I can see the relief on his face after a few minutes. Max had not suffered any life-threatening injuries, I realized. But I must say, Frank had gone too far this time. Max, fortunately, is a 9th rank wizard. If it was anyone other than him, I have no idea what will happen in this duel. I saw the terrified expressions of lower-ranking students at this point. They would have been crippled in the face of this attack if it had been them. Suddenly, I noticed a new situation developing. The combat instructor directed students nearby to pick up Max Cooper. I'm guessing he's going to send him to the clinic. The students then hurriedly placed Max's body on a stretcher and exited the classroom. But I noticed that Frank's expression had not changed. My mood began to worsen as I looked at his arrogant expression. I want to beat up this guy. But I have no choice but to remain silent. I can make him bedridden even if I don't use my gravity magic. Suddenly, I noticed the combat instructor approaching Frank. Looking at the combat instructor's displeased expression, I believe he is about to lash out at him. Everyone is currently paying close attention to the situation. They're curious to see how the combat instructor will handle the situation. Everyone's eyes were filled with hope. But I don't believe so. Frank is a 4th rank wizard with a solid background. As a result, the school administration will not punish him severely. I believe that after some warning, management will let him go. Stage. What have you done? Freeman inquired, his voice solemn. He is clearly controlling his rage. Frank sneered internally before responding, he is frail. I had previously assumed that Max had gained strength. So I had only used half of my strength. However, he was unable to withstand my attack in the end. So it's not my fault, then Frank Lambert elaborated. He is astute. Max would have been seriously injured if he had used his full strength earlier. A glint flashed through the combat instructor's eyes. He had also noticed this earlier. Frank had spent half of his energy. Mr. Freeman, on the other hand, quickly saw through Frank's thoughts. He realized Frank had planned this attack ahead of time. Harumph, he snorted coldly before adding, there will be no more duel. You two can practice on your own. He paused the sparring session after saying that. Frank Lambert's face darkened even more. He started to respond but stopped in the middle. He was taken aback by the combat instructor's abrupt words. He walked out of the duel stage, dissatisfied, after a few moments of thought. This abrupt change added to the strangeness of the situation. Nobody expected the situation to turn out this way. But the outcome did not surprise me. I knew Mr. Freeman would never offend Frank in this way. Then I noticed Frank walking back to his house. His own actions ruined his day's plans. I'm not sure what he'll do next. Time passed. Before the combat class ended, students practiced individually. The students then exited the classroom one by one. Pint Luxurious Hotel, Red City. The former headmaster of the Little Stargate High School spends his leisure time inside one of the Red City's luxurious hotels. He has been out of work for several weeks. He is currently looking for the next offer. But things were not as simple as they appear. His organization, the Dark League, has been after him. Mr. Colin Sanders has been acting very low-key lately. Within the bedroom. Damn, he muttered to himself. When his gaze was drawn to the communication watch's display screen. He had only recently received some information. Some unknown people ransacked his house. What mystery? He knew the Dark League wouldn't abandon him like that. He had not completed his mission. The Dark League was now on the lookout for his head. His mind flashes back to Vincent Carey. His eyes gleamed with a cold glint the next second. Colin had not abandoned the mission. However, he is looking for the ideal opportunity. He's taking his time for 2 reasons. First, he heard about an assassination plot against Vincent Carey. He mistook the members of the Dark League for the perpetrators. He only realized later it had been done by someone else. So he squandered a lot of time that week. Second, he will not want to pass through the members of the Dark League. After completing the mission, he wishes to return to the organization. However, the Dark League members follow a strict protocol. They will first punish him for his failure. Knock. He was thinking about something when he heard a knock on the door. He awoke from his trance after hearing that. He mistook it for a hallucination. Knock. The original appearance of this chapter can be found at N0V4L, Bijan. Then he heard the same knocking sound again. How? He grumbled to himself. He had previously locked the front door. So, where is all this noise coming from? Then a sudden realization dawned on him. He broke out in cold sweat the next second. The Dark League? He thought to himself. No way he knows his location was not revealed. So, how did this happen? He got out of bed to assess the situation. Colin was terrified when he opened the door and saw no one outside. He then became aware of something on the ground. A projecto disc? He exclaimed in surprise. He then took up the round projection desk to inspect it. When he held this object in his palm, it began to vibrate the next second. The disc was automatically activated. On top of it, a holographic screen appeared. Colin's face tightens as he notices this. Please reply to my call at 7 p.m. otherwise you will die. When the message appeared, his heart rate increased. Colin believed he had successfully evaded their pursuit. He still appears to have underestimated them. It's over, he muttered to himself as he collapsed onto the ground. He knew who would call him later. Colin does not wish to contact that individual. But his situation had rendered him helpless. Time passed. When the clock struck 7 p.m. after a few hours, Colin's watch beeps with a notification. Colin, who had never left his room before, straightened his back after reading the contact's name. With a trembling finger, he touched the screens. Colin, how have you been? Said a deep voice from the other hand the next second. Hearing that causes his heart to skip a beat. Several beads of sweat began to drip from his brow. For a brief moment, he lacks the strength to respond to this summons. Colin? A thunderous voice reached his ears once more. Cough. Mr. Dave, what's going on? Colin stated. He doesn't know what to say or what not to say. Dave, on the other hand, sneered from within. He does not wish to squander any more time. Colin, pay close attention. You have 1 week to kill that brat, Dave responded. Colin's expression became solemn. He felt that 1 week was insufficient. Mr. Dave, I believe that kid has a connection to the local police force. So completing it in 1 week will be difficult, Colin responded. Colin discovered a practical reason to postpone this mission. Mr. Dave, on the other hand, quickly saw through his delusions. I don't give a damn. If that child does not die within a week, you must replace him. Dave abruptly ended the call after saying that. Colin's expression has twisted. How is he going to murder that kid in a week? For a brief moment, he stood motionless, like a statue. His blood is boiling with rage. Various thoughts popped into his head. Then he remembered the recent events involving Vincent Carey. That brat, as far as he knows, has been attending school as usual. Colin, on the other hand, is unsure about the strength of his relationship with the police force. If the police discover evidence of the Dark League, the consequences will be disastrous. Behind that kid is also Yellow River Academy. He must consider this as well. He is certain of one thing. The Dark League wishes to use him as a scapegoat. The following day, Colin Sanders left the hotel early in the morning to meet with some people. He went to the less populated residential area near the Pent Hotel. Collins looked around the area after entering one of the rundown houses. This is not at all like home. It's as if someone abandoned this house a long time ago. The house appeared to be in a state of disarray. Colin furrowed his brows in annoyance. But he realizes that the more messed up the place is, the less attention it will attract. While he was thinking, he noticed people approaching the old house. He vanishes from the scene and hides behind the door the next second. After a few seconds, 5 people in ragged clothes entered the house. Colin Sanders finally noticed the arrival of the people. He lowers his brows the next second. They were none other than his subordinates. Then he slowly walked out and appeared in front of them. Lord, exclaimed the group's leader. When they saw Colin's face, they immediately straightened up. Colin responded with a nod of his head. Then his gaze was drawn to the people one by one. After seeing that, this group's strength is evident. In contentment, he relaxed his brows. Kenny Rogers, the group's leader, is a level 3 wind element wizard. The remaining members were all level 2 wizards. Using these people is a little overkill, Colin reflected. But he has no choice because Mr. Dave has only given him 1 week. As a result, he must ensure that this mission is a complete success. Colin looked at the leader Kenny, then retracted his thoughts. I have a mission for your team, Kenny, Colin said solemnly. Kenny's eyes widened with surprise and delight when he heard that. He hasn't had a mission from the Lord in a long time. So he understands how valuable this opportunity is. Every mission comes with substantial rewards. So he didn't even think twice about it. Tell me, Lord, what should I do? Kenny inquired. The rest of the team stood silently behind him. They were, however, enthusiastic about the mission. Colin, on the other hand, briefed him on the mission. Finally, he said, I want him dead by this weekend. Who is Vincent Carey? Kenny's eyes twinkled with delight. He learned from the Lord's words that the target is a school student, and he was only recently awakened. As a result, his strength may not be greater than that of a typical level 1 wizard. So why do we have to do it as a group? His eyes exhibited a hint of perplexity. That brat can be killed by any strong level 1 wizard. As a result, there is no reason for them to expend energy and time on this mission. Colin, on the other hand, saw right through his thoughts. Before saying, his face revealed a sly smile. Don't dwell on the mission too much. Simply follow my instructions. He is sending a strong team to complete this mission for a reason. Vincent Carey is related to the police force, so he doesn't want anything to go wrong at the last minute. The leader Kenny then left with his team after receiving his instructions. When he saw that, a wide smile spread across his face. He hopes to hear the good news as soon as possible. Maybe after you finish the mission. Mr. Dave will not bother him any longer. He then retracted his thoughts and left this location. From MC's perspective, 5 days later, the Claudia gym. I opened my eyes after 3 hours of meditation. A warm current flowed through my body. It is clearly due to the core progression. System, show my status panel, I said to the system. Ding. The host command is recognized. Ding. Level up system. Status panel. Host's name, Vincent Carey. Magic power, gravity. Mage level 1 limiter. 5 months remain to level up. Mental method, gravity arc, running. Grade, earth. Running mode, automatic. Rate of absorption, 80%. Gravity core status, 45%, progressing. 5.5%/month. Sacred core formless. Mana power 700. Mana capacity 700. Talent, top bottom, upgradable. Color pale orange. Strength 77. Speed 76. Stamina 79. Vitality 100. Limit has been reached. Intelligence 50. Limit has been reached. Soul power 50. Limit has been reached. Constitution 50. Limit has been reached. Sacred gravity physique 1%. Mental power 50. Limit has been reached. Spells 3. 1. Gravity field 2. Gravity push 3. Gravity pull. Slots filled 3. In front of my eyes was a large status panel. Then I started going over the statistics. As a result, I made the usual progress. I breathed a sigh of relief. I didn't get a chance to go to the Claudia gym earlier this week. Otherwise, my statistics would have risen a few points more. But fortunately, I arrived today. I'll have less trouble if I go to the wilderness tomorrow. Suddenly, I became aware that my thoughts had become much clearer. My brain function has greatly improved. My attention was drawn to intelligence characteristics the next second. I'm curious about where all the extra energy went. But I have a nagging feeling in my heart that the excess energies have strengthened my intelligence even more. I then decided to leave the mana chamber after retracting my thoughts. L1 T-Lagoon witnessed the first publication of this chapter on N0 Vel B1N. On the other hand, the leader Kenny and his team were keeping an eye on the Carey home. They've been working on the mission for several days now, but they still haven't killed Vincent Carey. So far, the leader Kenny has not found a suitable opportunity. Kenny muttered to himself from the opposite high-rise building, where does the brat go? As the mission deadline approaches, his mood begins to deteriorate. Kenny does not want to leave a trace. That is why he is concerned about the location. If he kills that brat in the middle of the street, there will be consequences. Because this neighborhood is home to a large number of high-ranking wizards. As a result, he does not want his whereabouts to be revealed. Time passed. Finally, it's late at night. Kenny received a message from a member of his team. A cold glint flashed into his eyes as he read the message. Vincent Carey, because one of his men has spotted the brat. He then went to look at the Carey house. Then he noticed Vincent Carey conversing with the cab driver. The air cab left the scene a few seconds later. And then that brat entered the house. Boss, we only have 2 days. He was reminded by one of his men. Kenny's face became solemn when he heard that. He recognizes the gravity of the situation. They're just wasting their time here. If they fail to complete this mission, the Lord will abandon them. He broke out in cold sweat as he remembered Lord Colin's past events. After a few moments of thought, he replied, "No matter what happens, we will kill that kid tomorrow." After hearing his response, his teammates sighed with relief. The following day, Carey residence? An air cab landed in front of the gate and a person walked out of the house a few seconds later. Given that, the individual is none other than Vincent Carey. Everyone was made aware. Kenny, the leader, had anticipated this situation. So they prepared their air cars. After picking up Vincent Carey, the air cab took off. Kenny, the leader, took immediate action. A few seconds later, they started following the same air cab. After 2 hours. From behind, 2 air cars slowly followed an air cab. They entered the Venom City area after seeing this. Kenny, the leader, widened his eyes in surprise. The Adventure Union rules the entire city. Any crime committed while they were in charge was usually dealt with harshly. So his expression was forced to be solemn. What exactly is the brat doing here? He grumbled to himself. Then he noticed the direction they were heading in. It leads to the city wall. When he realized this, a flood of thoughts flooded his mind. Does he have anyone waiting for him? He thought to himself. Typically, a wizard family will send their descendants into the wilderness. They can only gain combat experience after fighting the monsters. Kenny reasoned that this could be the case. However, the situation will deteriorate significantly. His face became gloomier as he considered the obstacles. They arrived at the city wall after only a few seconds. The air cab soon landed on the platform. When 2 more air cars saw this, they landed near the platform. Kenny and his men exited the air car. They were not disguised at the time. They resembled the hunters from the Adventure Union. They gradually followed Vincent Carey. Their appearance did not raise any red flags. Kenny, on the other hand, is keeping an eye on his surroundings. He's curious if anyone is going to meet up with that kid. The city guards examined each individual. Then, after a few minutes, everyone entered the wilderness. Wilderness? After entering the wilderness, I rushed towards the dividing edge. This time I'm planning to go deep into vast plains. Last time, I was stopped by the appearance of second-order monsters. But now, I'm confident enough to face even third-order monsters. Time passed. I covered half a distance in half an hour. On the way, I hadn't faced any troubles. So it saved me a lot of time. I also encountered other adventurer groups on the way. But none of them was willing to open up a fight so soon. In that way, I avoided some troubles. When I was dashing towards the destination, I felt a cold gaze behind my back. For a moment, I thought I'm hallucinating. But after crossing a few distances, that feeling didn't go away. Ew! A trace of apprehension appeared in my eyes. But I quickly recovered myself. I guess some adventure group is targeting me. This situation might be possible. Because I'm traveling alone, I may seem fat lamb to others. The next second, a wide smile spread on my face. It's been a long since I had a battle with other hunters. So my hands were itching to try it out. I looked around the surroundings. I'm still in the circle of the outer area. If there is any battle broke out, it will soon attract the attention of others. So I have to cross the diving edge first. Time passed. I reached the dividing edge in an hour. When I paused my movements, I felt the following aura also slow down. On the way, I made some calculations. The people who are targeting me are not small in numbers. I believe it's a group of 5. All of them exerted strong pressure. Especially one of them is stronger than the rest of them. If my assumption is right, he must be the group leader. On the other hand, Kenny and his group closely follow Vincent Carey. So far, Kenny had found no other person besides Vincent Carey, which brought a lot of surprise to him. What is going on? He said to himself, this kid hasn't met anyone on the way. Is he planning to go alone? A thought rose in his heart, but the next second he felt it's absurd. He feels that brat must have some destination in his mind. Otherwise, that brat won't continue without taking any rest. A quick glint flashed into his eyes when he realized the fact. But somewhere in his heart, there is some confusion. Because that brat is rushing at full speed. Which made him perplexed. That speed is not something any newly awakened wizard would exhibit. But Kenny retracted his thoughts. He is a level 3 wizard. He is capable of handling any changes. So he decided to kill Vincent after finding a good spot. Kenny then looked at his men before continuing to follow Vincent Carey. He was not afraid of the vast plains. As a strong level 3 wizard, he can easily take care of third-order monsters. He was also aware that fourth-order monsters were rarely seen in this wilderness. When it comes to the fifth-order monster, he doesn't know whether it exists or not. But as long as he doesn't come across fourth-order monsters, Kenny can easily execute his plan. He also doesn't want to encounter other adventurer groups. His eyes gleamed with a cold glint. No one should know that a school student died mysteriously in the wilderness. On the other hand, after crossing the dividing edge, I dashed towards the nearest open land area as soon as possible. Time passed. After an hour, I reached the small plains before the hill areas. This is my usual spot for hunting half-in first-order monsters. After arriving at this place, I halted my movements and turned to face the incoming enemy. I felt 5 strong coming in my direction at full speed. Whoosh! A couple of seconds later, 5 people wearing dark black robes appeared in front of me. The roots of this story extend from Novelbian origin. I wrinkled my eyebrows after looking at their attire. They do not seem to be hunters from adventurer groups. The next second, a horrible realization struck my mind. High-rank wizards, I mumbled under my breath. To make sure, I looked into their status panel after using the probing function of the system. It all happened in a blink of an eye. A strong curiosity rose in my heart. Why would a level 3 wizard follow me? Various questions popped into my mind. But before I could think of anything else, I felt the leader of the group is looking at me fiercely. He. Kenny burst into a huge laughter. Brad, what happened? Why don't you run anymore? Kenny asked in a sarcastic tone. After saying that, he glanced around the surroundings. He instructed his men to spread around. He doesn't want any monsters or adventurer groups to interfere in this murder. Then Kenny acted with a relaxed attitude. He is not in any hurry to kill the brat. On the other hand, the leader's words brought shock me, especially after seeing his men guard the surroundings. A quick glint flashed into my eyes. Why do I feel something amiss? Their activities do not seem like they come here to loot me. After killing you, I will get huge rewards from the Lord, Kenny said casually. But he doesn't know his words will bring disastrous change the next second. What? I exclaimed in surprise. Someone is after my head. Who is it? Poison dagger? No way, I was fired from my part-time job. So there is no official contact between me and the police force. The image of Jake House comes to mind. Then I shook my head in denial. No one knows what happened to Jake House. He was officially declared missing. So these people are not related to him, which means these people belong to a different force. The next second, a cruel glint flashed into my eyes. I need to find out who is behind them. The only possible enemy I can think of is Frank Lambert. Who wants me dead? I asked in a solemn tone. Kenny was surprised for a moment. He found this brat is not afraid at all. A sly smile spread on his face. He decided to torture this brat before ending his life. Then he strode towards the brat. His team members also keep an eye on the surroundings. On the other hand, I looked at him solemnly. When he walked closer towards me, I began to cast the magic. Gravity failed. I released the gravity spell for a couple of seconds. A terrific pressure appeared out of nowhere. Kenny, who was looking at the brat with a sly smile on his face, was dumbfounded the next second. His chest tightened for no reason. Feeling something ominous in his heart, Kenny thought about escaping. He looked at the brat with disbelief in his eyes. Before he could open his mouth to command his team members, a mighty pressure landed on him. Puff! He collapsed onto the ground the next second. This sudden change in situations alarmed other members. I saw the rest of them dashing towards me. Seeing that, I snorted before releasing the same spell again. Thud. One by one simultaneously, 4 wizards crushed onto the ground. They were deeply injured. The next second, I dispelled the gravity spell. My gaze then fell on the leader before looking at the rest of them. Everyone's life is hanging on a thread. I sighed in relief after seeing that. If not for the gravity magic, I would have been dead right now. Then I saw the leader coughing up blood. My eyes gleamed with a cold glint. Tell me, who ordered you to kill me? I asked. My voice was not loud, but it fell on everyone's ears. Kenny raised his head and looked at the brat. His mind was a complete blank. He won't know what to make of their current situation. Everything was fine a moment ago. Now everyone reached the death door. Kenny's eyes filled with horror. A newly awakened brat can instant kill the level 3 wizard. The whole thing seems incomprehensible to him. But it has happened in reality. No wonder his master asked him to kill this brat. But still, his master had made an error in judgment. He has underestimated this brat greatly. Feeling the intense gaze, he shuddered. Kenny knows he has no chance of survival. Now he won't want to get tortured before dying. Kenny has resigned to his fate now. He decided to spill the truth. Then he slowly began to speak. 5 minutes later, my heart was filled with a huge shock. The former headmaster wants me dead. Why? I couldn't find any possible reason for it. Is it because he was fired from his job? I recalled how mine and Lucas' organization pressurized the school chairman to remove the former headmaster from his post. I can understand his motive. But I'm still surprised by his connections. He has connections with killers. Then what about these people? Then again I interrogated them. A few minutes later, I killed 5 of them before collecting their valuables. These people are just local thugs. My eyes gleamed with a cold glint. Then I disposed of their corpses before going deep into the woods. Wilderness, Venom City. Time passed. I reached the hill areas a few hours later. But my heart was not in a calm state at all. My mind is occupied with the image of the former headmaster. After finding a suitable spot, I decided to stop and take some rest. Sitting on bedrock, I began to ponder. I had previously assumed it might be the work of someone else. But in the end, it turns out to be the former headmaster Colin. Does he want Lucas' head as well? My eyes gleamed with a quick glint. I don't know whether he is stupid or not. If anything happens to us, Colin will be chased by 2 giant organizations. Yet he is ready to take such a risk. Which shows how dangerous a threat he is actually. Before thinking about Frank Lambert, I must take care of this immediate threat. Only after killing the former headmaster Colin I can freely walk around the world. Then suddenly a quick realization struck me. Colin is a level 4 wizard. A trace of apprehension appeared in my eyes. I can kill a level 3 wizard with my power. But at level 4 something is different. I don't know whether my gravity magic can work against the level 4 wizard, which is something that needs to be tested. I sighed inwardly. These days I'm facing one enemy after another. Especially in this vast wilderness, the life of a hunter is extremely difficult. So it was no surprise to me if someone had chosen to work as a dog for level 4 or level 5 wizards. After contemplating for a few moments, a good idea comes to mind. I can solve the former headmaster without having to move my finger. At this time, a particular person's image comes to mind. John Myers, I grumbled. Last time, I told him about the assassination attempt on me. I have a vague feeling that he had solved that problem for me. So I can trust him with this issue also. A quick glint flashed into my eyes. But there is one tricky situation that lies in these issues. I don't want anyone to know about my current strength, especially my habit of training in this wilderness. If it is known to the world, it will raise some suspicious eyebrows. What to do? Then I began to hatch a good plan in mind. I believe the former headmaster will send more powerful wizards to kill me in future. So I need to act before him. Right now, I'm in dark. He is on the bright side. He knows my whereabouts and especially my home address. My eyes became complicated thinking about home. I don't think unless he has a death wish, he won't directly attack my home. After pondering, I came to a good conclusion. I should reveal the information to Lucas and let him tell this news to his organization. If both our organizations began to act, then the former headmaster will have difficulty surviving. I sighed inwardly. I will not tell anyone about the killing of these people, but I will make sure to expose Colin's hand behind all of this. My heart began to calm down after gaining some clarity. Then retracting my thoughts, I began to replenish my mana consumption after consuming a few potions. After 20 minutes, I began to move again. Right now, I'm using the same old route which I had used last time. As I'm getting closer to the entrance to the vast plains, my mind couldn't help but think about the Gregor site. What happened to that location? A curiosity rose in my heart, especially thinking about the existence of the relics on that site. I got a strong urge to visit that place. Though I got a system and my future wizardry path will be smooth because of this. But still having rare relics can reduce my burden. And it was proven to be true. While I'm moving at full speed, I heard a rustling sound from ahead. Whoosh! A giant snake came into my view. The snake is lying in the middle of the narrow path. Seeing that, a wide smile spread on my face. System probe the target's details. I instructed the system mind. Ding! Host's command is recognized. Ding! The command is executed. Status panel. Target's name, ground snake. Order, second order intermediate level. Strength, 150. Vitality, 143. Speed, 144. Stamina, 146. Skill, Venom Bite. I nodded after looking at the statistics. I can't forget the name of the snake. Previously, I had fought with similar snake species. Fortunately, at that time the ground snake was well fed. It didn't have interest in chasing me down. But everything has changed in the past few weeks. I'm not the same anymore. Looking at the restless snake once again, I couldn't help but take a look at statistics again. The initial instance of this chapter being available happened at EP1CN0V3L. The statistics of the monsters were simple. It's not complicated as wizards. Statistics of wizards related to different factors. Talent and magic power is the main one. And the breakthrough conditions were different for different wizards. But the monster has a simple and direct way of progression. They need evolution. For that their blood needs to be pure. Much purer the blood, the stronger the monster will be. Then I saw the snake begin to move. Seeing that, I dispelled the panel and walked towards the snake. Gravity failed, I said. I released the wisp of gravity power for a moment. The ground snake got alarmed. Before it could move away from the spot. Puff! A terrific pressure appeared out of nowhere and descended on the ground snake. The next second, the ground snake turned into a blood mist. Then my gaze fell on the ground, which has suffered huge cracks. Like some terrible monster had stomped the ground with its huge feet. This small area has sunken below, forming a deep pit. The process was over in a blink of an eye. Seeing that, I sighed inwardly. I want to collect the crystal gem. But before that, it's paramount for me to get good control ability. As long as I can control the timing and wisp of gravity magic, I can manage the gravitational pressure. The next second, I crossed the deep pit to continue my journey. Several hours later, I touched the real land of the vast plains. Hereafter, there will be many more second and third order monsters. But somewhere in my heart, I want to try my power against the fourth order monster. But the next second, I retrieved my thoughts. My current magic power has given me a sense of invisible belief, which is not good for me. All I have to do is to move one step at a time. Then my future will be much more stable. Because our current world has a lot of wonders. Many weird and taboo magic exists, so I should not be overconfident. Then retracting my thoughts, I glanced around the surroundings. Last time, I encountered a few wizards from the Sword Guild. I don't know whether I will encounter anyone here. Then shaking my head, I dashed towards the destination. And my destination is the Gregor site. I want to see what that place is. Just after 10 minutes, I encountered a few second-order monsters. After killing them, I stride towards the location. I had already memorized the route from the map, so I don't have difficulty finding that place. Time passed. A few hours later, I spotted a distinctive area. This small area is filled with lush green vegetation. It's like a sanctuary located in the middle of the plains. After seeing that, I didn't move forward. Rather, I used the map to verify the location. My eyes gleamed with a twinkle. This place is the ruin of an ancient wizard. This place is like an oasis in the middle of a desert. Looking at the lush green atmosphere, I realized it might be related to the ruin. Realizing that, I immediately wanted to dash towards it. But a trace of apprehension appeared in my eyes. I may not be the only one here. So I need to be careful. Then I rushed toward the spot after gaining some clarity. I arrived at the entrance after a few minutes. My heart rate began to beat faster. I heard some conversation on the way. The next second, I slowly began to move forward to the center. As I move forward, the sound of conversation is also getting higher. When I reached closer, I saw a group of wizards. 2 adventurer groups were standing opposite each other. There are more than 10 wizards in each group. I thought it might be an illusion. But it's true, there is a huge quarrel going on between 2 different adventurer groups. I gulped my saliva in fear. Fortunately, there is no level 4 wizard. Otherwise, he would have sensed it from a long distance. After realizing the fact, I sighed in relief. When it comes to these wizards on the ground, the numbers are terrific. But I can easily slaughter them if I release the full gravitation pressure on them. Various thoughts came to mind. I saw one of the 2 groups have sword badges on them. Sword Guild, I grumbled.